Welcome to Sic'Em365 Radio.
Oh, that'll be a pick six. Heading the other way. Baylor's in the end zone. Touchdown. Second consecutive week for a pick six by Jalen Petrie.
Sic'Em365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Third down and 5. Ball's on the 8-yard line. Line to gain is the 3. Brewer. Nobody home. Calls his own number. Brewer! Touchdown!
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Murray out of the pocket. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. Murray heaves it downfield. It is. Oh, it's caught. It is caught. DeAndre Hopkins. Miraculous. It's Murray magic.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. Sic'Em365 on this Monday as we churn towards the second part of November. That highlight, that play, Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, we have much to get to when it comes to Baylor football. Also comments and update on Dede Richards with Baylor women's basketball. And Moon Urson with an emotional response to a question I asked her today about being her age in her prime of her youth and dealing with what they are dealing with just as anyone is right now around America. We'll update more on the NFL. Cowboys back to work. Vikings this week. High school football players of the week. Playoff games, one already canceled. And we'll hear from Mahia's Tristan Abram. Also, quite a bit from Dave Aranda today. The only opportunity we'll get this week is teleconference on many things. But the play, let's start with Kyler Murray for just a second, and then we take your calls and texts as well, 254-339-1122. I'm kind of minding my own business, watching games, and Paul texts me, Kyler blanking Murray.
It was unbelievable. I was watching it live because there weren't a lot of great games on yesterday. I mean, there were some okay ones, but that one was really interesting and compelling to me, the Bills and the Cardinals, two teams with it. So I watched the whole game, and so I get down to the end, and the play right before it, he had escaped a sack, and I thought, of all the guys, I just thought in my head that can do this, or like Aaron Rodgers are the ones that are just impossible to sack, and he is impossible to sack in that kind of situation. And when he avoided that rush at the end and heaved it up, I thought, well, they got the best wide receiver in the NFL he's probably thrown it to. I don't know that until I see it, but, I mean, there's a good chance of this. And then he completed the pass. It was unbelievable, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, he's incredible. And, there were so many questions about the guy coming out of high school to college and how he would translate. I remember seeing him as a freshman at A&M. And, long before they were about to get hit with the big logjam of he and Kyle Allen that resulted in both their departures. I remember just seeing this tiny little kid out there running around and thinking like, okay, sure, let's see how this goes. He's got a lot of hype behind him, and sure enough, transfers from A&M to Oklahoma and did everything that he could possibly do outside of winning a national championship. And then, there's equal questions about his size in the NFL and number 1 overall pick in the draft. And now here he is. He's nearly 2 years into his career, and I think he's proven that he's an NFL quarterback. And he's proven that size doesn't always matter when you've got the arm, the talent, the speed, everything else that he has. He's incredible.
It was the little bit of not a jab step, but just a little bit of that body language, that's kind of that quick twitch that he has, that allowed him to get just enough time around the rush and then throw it as he's headed to the sideline back across his body. All right, a couple of notes from Dave Aranda earlier today, again on the Big 12 teleconference. We're about to hear 3 parts of what he said today. Where is his locker room? Because when you lose and you have frustration, you start having finger pointing. Is that a problem? Number 2, Baylor has a ton of players that went through that 1-11, and now they're 1-5, and how much right now can you lean on them? Number 3, Charlie Brewer and what his sister put up on social media about potential death threats and how Charlie Brewer reacted to that, to what he told Dave Aranda when Aranda approached him, and then also how they move forward at the quarterback position. We'll get into all that. But Gary Bohannon, who did not make the trip to Lubbock, he is back with the team. He's got some issues he's dealing with personally, and we'll give him his privacy on that. But, you know, the first reaction is, oh, he's tired of not playing. I'm sure Gary Bohannon and Jacob Zeno and others are probably a little bit perturbed by that. Sure they are, if they have any competitive bone in their body. But this was something that really is personal. Does it lead to anything down the road with him? Maybe. But he is back with the team. He did not make the trip to Lubbock, Texas. Now, 1-5. You are what your record says you are. 1-5. We can continue to beat the dead horse about who they could be, but this is who they are. They're a team that no matter what, even when one place or one piece or two-thirds of what you do in phases of football may be okay, one breaks down. Or one that's your best gives up a long drive at the end of the game that allows an easy field goal. They are just not a good football team.
No, they're not. They're a team that doesn't have a lot of depth at certain spots. They're a team that still's not playing really well in the offensive line. There were positives. I mean, I like what I saw out of Quaylon Jones at times on Saturday. I think that's something you can build on going forward. I think the quarterback position is going to be what it is. It's going to be what it is. You've got a guy who's, in my opinion, a shell of what he was a year ago. In most people's opinions, a shell of what he was a year ago for whatever reasons those are, and he's still their best option to win apparently, and they're going to go with him because they feel that way. And they just don't know how to win. They don't know how to close. They didn't close against Texas Tech. They just can't do that, and that's just a team that's kind of aimless right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're not a good football team. There's no other way to really slice it right now. Had victory right there in their grasp. I mean, that was as winnable of a football game as you're going to have this entire year. They were fully in control of that game. Tech was not putting up much of a fight. Tech is not a good football team. I don't know about you guys, but one clear sign of how not good of a football team Tech is and why I would be worried if I was a Texas Tech fan, why were they panicking at the end of the game? They were absolutely losing their mind in the last 2 minutes when all they needed to do was kick a field goal. They were down 2, and you would have thought they had to score and then go for 2 and get it to force overtime. That's how they were acting. I was like, what are you doing? You're losing your minds, and you've got everything in control. But I don't think they're a very well-coached team. I don't think Matt Wells is long for that program. There was nothing special about them, and yet it was still enough to beat Baylor. Because, as you guys said, if it's not one thing, it's another thing, and sometimes it's always the same thing. And it was that way for a couple of different position groups on Saturday. It is what it is. They're just not good, and whatever they do well one week, they don't do well the following week. They're inconsistent. They don't play very complimentary football. When one group actually does do their job, the other group can't follow suit. It's like, okay, I tweeted on Saturday as the offense was in another drought. Hey, offense, go win the game, right? All they had to do was, you got 4 minutes on the clock. You've got the opportunity to go down and win that football game. Hey, offense, it's on you, go win the game. They can't do that. All right, defense, get a stop, go win the game. Can't do that. So it's just like, if it's not one thing, it's the other thing, and, that's just the story of this season.
I looked at the 1-11 roster of the team that went 1-11, and there's 23 to 25 players, maybe more, from that roster that are still on the team. There's some attrition, those who transferred or those who had to leave. And then also on top of that, those who are now in the NFL, Chris Miller, or have been or are attached or practice squad and or active. Chris Miller, Graylin Arnold, Ira Lewis, I think he's in and out. Jamison Houston on and off. Denzel Mims, Blake Lynch, Henry Black, Harrison Hand. Again, some of these guys are now free agents. Jermichael Hasty broke his collarbone over the weekend. Clay Johnston, Greg Roberts, Sam Tecklenburg, James Lockhart, Blake Blackmar, Jalen Hurd, James Lynch, and Bravion Roy.
It's a lot of not just talent, that's a lot of leadership.
Yes.
And not to say that they don't have that, but there's 5 guys you mentioned in there that jumped out at me when you said it. There was a guy who commanded his position group, who commanded the locker room, who could command that. And Not that they don't have that now, but I don't know they do because we're not privy to that really anymore because of COVID. So again, this being a different year, who has stepped up to replace that, and how hard has it been to step up and replace that given the inconsistencies of things?
So
how can you be a leader if you're out for 2 weeks for COVID? It's tough.
Some guys who are on either the current staff or high school staffs around or elsewhere: Taylor Young, Brian Nance, Davion Hall, Pooh Strickland, Verkedrick Vaughns, I got a couple more here. Mo Porter. Those are guys that are coaching at some level that are moved into the next part of their life as football people, all right? And then there's some that are just, that have transferred. Zach Smith, who had a huge win for Tulsa over the weekend, along with Philip Montgomery. We'll get into that as well. And then Ismail Wainwright, of course, the basketball player. I think he might be in Europe at this particular time. If I'm right, that's wrong. If I'm wrong, that's okay. And then a couple who transferred, like Deontay Williams, and then some that were just asked to leave, Ogar and others. Trayvon Lewis, they're not there anymore. So how much, Craig, do you feel like that team, the chunk of that team, about a little less than a quarter of that roster, or maybe over a third of that roster, can be leaned on now, or do you feel like that could be the problem because they want to do it the way it was done to get through 1-11, and there might be some infighting?
Yeah, I don't know. As I was doing the post-game reaction podcast, which is just after the game's over with, after the press conference is over with, I just grab my phone and I record like 10 to 15 minutes of just kind of a free stream of thought. And, I was left Saturday just kind of scratching my head a little bit at what I had just watched. And I speculated a little bit, and this had nothing to do with anything that I saw. It's just the general vibe I get from the team, and I even commented in a text to you guys. I don't know what that locker room is like right now, but on Saturday night, I just felt like it's kind of in need of some type of a purge. Like whatever's going on right now is not working, and it just feels out of sort. The whole to-do with Ebner and Lovett earlier this year obviously created some tension, and just I don't know. I can't pinpoint it, and I'm trying to make sense here, and I know I'm not really boiling it down to anything, but something feels off, guys. It feels like there is like some disjointed parts that have been put together and forced together.
Dysfunctional.
Yes.
Disjointed, dysfunctional,
There's some dysfunction, erratic. And I think that, there may be the need for some quote-unquote rule guys to move on because they're kind of stuck in the way that they do it. I don't know that to be sure, but it feels that way. Like it just feels disjointed.
Paul, I know you want to respond to that. We will hear from Dave Aranda. I was able to during the Big 12 teleconference. That's the only time we get him this week. That's it. And he asked, he answered the question about Bohannon is back. He answered the question about the quarterback personnel. What do they do during a bye week? Do they change things up? We'll have that from him as well. And then I asked him about his locker room. You're 1-11. I mean, you're 1-5, and this could get uglier as far as finger pointing, whatever. That doesn't mean I've been told that. Then I ask about leaning on 1-11 veterans, and then also a little bit about Charlie Brewer, the quarterback competition, and what his sister put up on social media late Saturday night. Paul, what was your response to Craig?
To Craig, I'm just going to say, I don't think that's an indictment of the guys' like personalities.
No.
I just think that sometimes, it's time to. It's just time. It's just how it is, and there are such a confluence of circumstances here that this isn't a normal year, so we can't put normal logic on it. So again, just adapt to the situation that's in front of you. Mm-hmm. And the situation that's in front of them is 2020 and everything that's happened.
To me, those who went through 1-11 should be able, those are players you should be able to rely on, lean on. Some may not want you to, but some might be frustrated because they've already been through this before. They're like, God, I'm not doing this again, and now you're 1-5. We have two players, Patrick Lawrence, who was a junior on 1-11, who will come and join us in studio today at 4, and Jordan Williams, who was, without question, a vocal leader of that team, eventually was a part of the great success. He'll join us today at 5:30. We'll have Phil Bennett as well today at 5 o'clock. We're going to take a call first.
Yeah.
254-339-1122, and then we're going to hear from Dave Aranda. Some of you have already hit us up on the text line. Matt, TJ, and others, thank you. Jane on the premium section of the chat room. So let's go.
All right, Steven, you're on Sic'Em365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Hey guys, happy Monday. I just want to say that I didn't really call to talk about the game. The most disappointing thing in the history of my Baylor fandom, the thing that made me more disappointed than the Showtime documentary or the Bring Back Coach Bryles t-shirts or any of that, is the death threats to Charlie Brewer. And that's just wrong on so many levels. And it just, I don't even know where to start with that, because it's not like we're Texas or Oklahoma to begin with. So, I want Charlie to know, because I hope people in the Baylor world listen to this, that that's not the way all the Baylor Nation feels, and that Baylor loves Charlie Brewer. Charlie Brewer is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the history of this school, regardless of what happens this season, and regardless of whether he should be pulled or not. So I just wanted to say that, and look, I imagine these people are probably on message boards like the ones that I'm on, but I pay my membership, and Mike Gundy said it too. I'm a man. I can take it. So that's all I've really got, guys.
Yeah, and I have Aranda respond to that, the allegations of whatever might have been said or typed or text or whatever, innuendos, and he does get into that. And like you would think Charlie Brewer would do, he handles it with, I think, this king could have flared up. He handled it what appears to be with a lot of class. We'll see that. That doesn't mean that you still don't want him to the quarterback competition to change. I get that. But when you get to the point of visceral evil and just downright just crap, and again, that's the way it can be.
Well, anybody doing that and directing that kind of negativity towards Charlie Brewer is a loser. You're a loser. I don't care who you are. You're a loser if you're issuing death threats to any
or
athlete.
Anything that would be even thought of as impossible.
Right. Yeah. Now, if you're not quite doing that, and in your opinion, you're just being really harsh, well, it's coming across in a way that you are. So you're still a loser. But, no, I understand the frustrations. He had the pick on Saturday that ended up being a killer. I get being upset about that. But, we've gone through the ringer on Charlie Brewer every single week for going on 3 years now. It is what it is, and that guy has left it all out on the field for Baylor football. It hasn't resulted in the wins that you might have wanted, but there's no denying that he's left every ounce of his being out on that football field, and sometimes it hasn't been good enough. More often than not, it has, and that's just going way too far.
All right, here is Dave Aranda. This is part of his Big 12 teleconference from earlier today. This is it for him this week. This is all we get to hear from him. And I asked him about, right now, where they are and the locker room and how and will he and can he see anything that might be splintered?
Dave, when things start to go south, go down, and you start to lose games, and especially sometimes when they're so frustrating to have a lead and then not finish, as you mentioned, how is the team inside the locker room as far as the older players, upperclassmen, or the younger players, have you been able to avoid any kind of finger pointing?
I think the team is strong. I think they, I think anytime you lose, and if you're to ask, hey, how are you doing? It's generally not going to be great, the answer that you get back. And so I appreciate that. And I think I believe that to be very true. I think, in talking with our team and then with our leaders, there is a fair amount of competitive fire. There's a fair amount of ownership, and there's a real strong amount of wanting to play to our standard and to finish games, start games, finish games, and play and put it all together. And so I know that that's a motivating piece. I think when you talk about some of the seniors and going from last year to this year, I know that is I know that's a blow. And I know that, for them to see that, the work I'm putting in now, the day-to-day that I'm going to put in is so that we can build on the limited success that we've had so that we can get the success that we want. And I think that's strong and that's selfless. And, I'm proud of that. But I think the the team and their attitude and their attitude towards work. I think all that comes from the top down. I think how they see or what you do is who you are, I feel. And so I think, how you handle these daily trials, and these daily fights is how you live your life. And so I think if it's laid out and communicated and lived, then I think they'll follow.
Do you feel like a chunk of the team that went through 1-11 and a coaching transition, there's still a large chunk of that team that is on this team? Does that help right now, or is that one of this is how we did it then and this is how we should do it now? Is there a conflict with that?
No, I think they see. I think that there is some help to that guys have gone through that before, and so they know that hey, stick to your guns, stick to what you believe in. Let's continue to build. And so I think I'm talking about players, believe in that, and I think they can talk from experience of having been in those fights before.
That's Baylor head coach Dave Aranda. A couple of questions from me today. We'll have one that he was asked about the quarterback situation, also Charlie Brewer and what his sister posted up on social media. 254-339-1122. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke. I'm David Smoke, Sic'Em365 Radio. CJ and Armstrong run the mothership. We'll look back at Dustin Johnson destroying Augusta National and much, much more. Paul?
Debbie, you're on Sic'Em365 Radio.
This is Scotty B, the Baylor King, actually.
Oh, sorry. The auto screen said Debbie with L and K, so. Sorry, Scotty B, go ahead.
I get we are all disappointed with this football season and how it's going in the year 2020 itself. However, we can all make a positive impact towards Baylor athletics, because I have been thanked numerous times from either head coaches or assistant coaches or even managers from all sorts of sports, as well as the players in the past and the present time, either in person or on social media. Of course, in life itself, we can make a positive impact. So please, y'all, be careful on what you will do going forward, especially you don't want to send any death threats or bully somebody online or anything like that. We all should support our team, no matter what, how many wins, losses, or even ties in any sport, as well as giving Baylor a positive image. That's all for me. Take care and stay safe. Sic'Em Bear.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Jason, is that right? Scotty B, I'm sorry. There was another text that I just got from a Jason who's named Scotty B. Thank you. Appreciate it. 254-339-1122. Appreciate your time. Calls and texts at various times today throughout the show. Now, here's also when I brought up, which one do we have next? The personnel at quarterback or Brewers, the threats?
Let's do the Brewer thing.
All right. So after the game, Charlie Brewer's sister posted on social media that she understood people who may not understand football and the criticism, frustration, whatever, but that football is not a one-man game. But she did say that she could not understand what were perceived, at least in her tweet, as death threats. And I asked Dave Aranda about the legitimacy of that and how Baylor was handling that going forward.
I approached Charlie about it and asked if that, what took place, and that we were ready to move to help protect him, just with reporting it to, the Baylor Police Department and just everything else. And he assured me that it was nothing, and that it was something that his sister got, that he didn't feel was directed at him or directed at her. And so, I think between myself and a couple other guys reaching out to him, he felt that it was good for us to continue moving and move past it.
You know, in this day and age, you can take that and run with that for hours, right? That could turn out to be over and that. I don't know how legitimate it was. I do know I had somebody in football tell me that there was something, but the fact that they're going to move on, that Charlie wants to move on, he doesn't want to make this a spectacle. Wish whoever said whatever they said to her, to his sister, to Charlie, whatever, again, that's what we talked about earlier. It just doesn't make any sense. Be realistic. Criticize, frustrate, whatever you want to be. But good God, when you start to get to the point where it might get overly personal, then that and I'm guilty of sometimes barking at people on Twitter as well. What the hell? It's ridiculous the way we act sometimes on Twitter.
No, it's a cesspool. I would love for it to be completely wiped off the face of the earth. And I'm somebody who's got a healthy amount of followers, and I enjoy Twitter on occasion. But as the years have gone by, I spend less and less time. I mean, it's a scouring tool for me just to kind of see what's going on. But, it's a cesspool, bottom line, like most social media goes. And, I'll say this about Dave Aranda, too. One thing that I can let everybody out there know about Matt Rule is Matt Rule never forgot the way that his family was treated the very first year he was at Baylor. And that bothered him, and that still bothers him, for real. And, they had all these great moments of 7-6 and then 11-3. But when it boiled down to it, as much as a bright spot as this team was and as much of a future as they had, he did have a bigger calling and ultimately wanted to move on. And I think if anything played into his decision, his ultimate thing was just, hey, I want to be an NFL head coach, and this is gargantuan money and all that. But he did not like the way that he was treated early on at Baylor or the way that his family was treated at times. And here's Dave Aranda in a different scenario, but an equally difficult in some ways scenario is what Matt Rule walked into. So scandal versus pandemic, there's differences, but Dave Aranda is doing everything he possibly can. And this is not a very good first impression for the Baylor fans in watching the program. It's also not a very good first impression for Dave Aranda watching the Baylor fans react to the adversity they're facing and not being maybe at times a bit more understanding of what they're going through. And instead of, just being mad at the quarterback, now he's having to address a death threat question, and instead of it being about, these changes maybe they need to make, it's about overall question of the program and his job. It's just like everybody, the thing just needs to take a deep breath in a major way. And Dave Aranda needs to be allowed some time. I understand if you don't like the product on the field right now, couldn't blame it. I mean, who would? But
he doesn't.
He doesn't like that. Yeah. But he doesn't either. Yeah, that's the point. Is he doesn't either. And this is not some guy who doesn't know what he's doing in any way, shape, or form. Look, it's just it's gonna take some time. He's not
sitting around after the game going, well, I'm happy with that.
I can't believe we lost that game.
$100 bills here. No.
I'm glad everyone had fun.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how he's doing it. And again, you just have to. I don't think we live in the now. And Twitter's a big part of that. And part of it was, before there was social media, like if you watched a news story, you know what thought I never had, and I still don't, but I look, it's like, I wonder what this random person I've never met thinks about this.
Yeah.
Like, but that's what Twitter is.
Yeah,
like something happens, and then you think, I wonder what this jackweed thinks about it. And then you go and look, and then it makes you mad because they don't agree with you. Well, then we're mad because we have all this information flooding into us, where before ignorance was bliss.
Yeah. I understand that the last 10 years, there have been 10-3. There have been 2 Big 12 championships, a Heisman Trophy, 11-3. I get that the standard is different than it was for the 20 or so years prior to that, but at the same time, you can be frustrated. You can question this and that, but when you start to get personal and you start to get a little bit over the edge, and to me, it's and Craig, you are so right. I know Matt Rule very well, and he left because it was an NFL job and there was a lot of money attached to it. But believe me, some of what was said to him or his family or how they were treated at times did leave a scar. And I know some of you said, screw him, he's gone, he never wanted to be here. But I'm just telling you,
probably one of those people.
There was a scar, and it's still there, believe me. And you guys know that it's still there. Now, 254-339-1122. We're going to come back again, continue on. If you have a call, question, comment, opinion, we're not saying, we've never said don't give your opinion. You want to fire away, go. We'll handle it and try to react to it, as will Baylor. But, the quarterback situation, I thought, this is me, if in fact you do make a change, if that's what you want, you have the bye week coming up where you have a chance to get reps. Bohannon stays with the team. And so do you kind of do something now? Dave Aranda was asked about that. 60-80% of you probably don't like his answer. We'll come back with his answer. We'll also take your calls. There's a couple of text messages from you as well.
Yeah, and to be very clear, I'm speaking specifically not about just having a negative reaction or having criticism, but taking that to an extra level where it becomes
vicious.
Nasty and vicious and hurtful and personal. Please, by all means, I've got plenty of thoughts of my own. I welcome yours on your thoughts from Saturday, because we do need to break down some problem areas, and that's not off the table by any means, but more talking about the personal viciousness.
And we were able to ask some of those in the postgame as well if you had a chance to listen to it. All right, this is Sic'Em365 Radio. All right, I just looked up on Waco Custom Marketplace on their home site. Waco Custom Marketplace already now having holiday specials. Spiral hams, 8 to 9 pounds, 12 pounds. Also, in fact, here's the great thing about some of the prices as well. The 8 to 9 pound half spiral hams are $3.80 a pound. The 12 pound pit hams are $3.90 a pound. Bone-in hams, 18 to 22 pounders, $2.75 a pound. And also the whole raw turkeys, 14 to 16 pounders, $1.75 a pound. Whole smoked turkeys, man, those are delicious, 10 to 12 pounders, $2.90 a pound. And mini pit hams, 6 to 8 pounds for $3.85 a pound. You can call them. You can also, by the way, go by their location and see what they have, including their butcher shop, including their bakery, where things are fresh and cut, customized orders for you. And if you also want fresh kolaches in the morning, or what you want in the morning when it comes to fresh baked bread, man, I do have a tongue twister with that. What you want, they have it. From desserts to just raw, great orders of seafood, pork, poultry, and beef. And along the way, inside the old-fashioned grocery store, from canned goods to boxed dinners to even things like seasonings and pasta and more, cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace. Think about them when it comes to holiday shopping as well. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sic'Em365 Radio.
The Sic'Em365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
All right, a couple of other quick notes in college football. Ole Miss A&M canceled. Arizona State, Colorado canceled. UL Monroe, remember they were going to play that game for the first time in a while with Louisiana Tech, also canceled. Former Frisco Lone Star quarterback star Jason Shelley dismissed by Utah State. And there's a few things we got to get to with the UT and Tom Herman's press conference today, and we'll get into that as well. All right, 254-339-1122. Paul?
Baylor Bigfoot. Thanks for your call. You're on Sic'Em365 Radio.
Hello? Hey, guys, Baylor Bigfoot, Double B's on the phone. You know, before I start this rant, I know I've joked in the past about, benching Charlie, but that's taking it way too far with death threats. I mean, he's been a great help. I wish the coaching staff, outside of James Danielson, that's playing out of Waco, would put the other QBs in. I will still ride with Charlie Brewer or wherever they put back that QB. I want to thank my buddy, Scotty B. Baylor King, for opening my eyes with this call. I literally teared up during this call, and Scotty B is my new favorite Baylor fan. Now, with that being said, I was watching the match this weekend, and I saw Dustin Johnson get a decisive win in dominating fashion. I mean, he went wire to wire. You know who else has gone wire to wire? Baylor football, for Pete's sakes. They were up by 2 touchdowns against Tech, and they let them back in the game and win it. Come to think of it, the best QB for a wire-to-wire victory on the roster happens to be Garrett McGuire. But we know the staff is too afraid to lose such a valuable asset on the sidelines and a play caller like Garrett McGuire. Later this week, I watched the Cardinals game and got a Hail Mary, and it reminded me what it was like to be a quarterback throw longer than 20 yards down the field. Now, I had to drop my presidential running mate, T-Rex, to see what the atmosphere was like during the game. But I will tell you that Brewer is not the guy we need to lead Bears right now. I saw the postgame show that Gary missed the bus during daylight savings time, but why wasn't the coaches put in Trino or the better QB, Garrett McGuire? Get rid of the offensive line graduate assistant, Chris Danielson, and this team will be undefeated. I'll have to listen. Dollars out.
Thank you, Baylor Bigfoot, for the call.
If anyone wants to sponsor his phone calls, you can call me, text me, whatever, get in front. Is he the one that called about the offensive line grad assistant on Saturday? Yeah. Let's point the fingers everywhere we possibly can. We love your passion. I couldn't understand half of what you said, but I got most of it. I did. But we appreciate your opinion.
Yeah, a nice Masters reference.
Yeah, no, he did. He had a Masters reference. You're exactly right. Patrick Lawrence, former Baylor offensive lineman, and also then Jason Williams will join us today. Jordan Williams, will join us today at 4. Jordan today at 5:30. Phil Bennett will join us today. He recruited Jordan Williams. So did Jim Gush. Backstory to that at 5:30 today. Phil Bennett at 5 o'clock today. Now, on the quarterback situation, boy, Charlie Brewer, on the play that Schooler made, which was an amazing play, because I don't think Dabney saw Schooler or knew that Charlie was behind him. Dabney may have seen Schooler, but he didn't know Charlie was behind him. And Charlie obviously did not see Schooler, who lit him up like a Christmas tree, right at the edge of the goal line. Otherwise, you would think that Charlie goes down lower, somehow makes that connection, makes the contact and collision. He's not going to win that most likely, but would have gotten an extra half a foot or so, which would have scored a touchdown and game pretty much over. That was an amazing play. You can get frustrated about it, but that was just a great play by Schooler. You know what? If that would have been whoever, Abram Smith making that play for Baylor, you'd talk about it forever. What a great play. That was amazing. And it was so sudden.
Yeah, it was.
Boom!
Yeah, well, I mean, thanks to Baylor Bigfoot, didn't really react to what he had to say there, but that was nice and hopefully cathartic for him. And that's how you rant and you get your feelings out there. So thank you, Baylor Bigfoot. But no, it was a great play by Schooler. I don't really fault anybody, Dabney for not making the block. But yeah, if he gets even a little bit of body, then that's a touchdown and Baylor wins that football game. If Charlie sees him somehow or another, maybe he's got an opportunity to do a spin move or something, but he didn't. I mean, it was so bang bang. It was like turning a corner and then like somebody's right there waiting on you, like you don't have any time to react to it. So that's just what this season is. If you look at all these games, there's some play or another that you want to put yakety sax behind it. You know what I mean? Like there's just, it's that kind of season where you could put together a highlight tape and put yakety sax as the music for it and just watch this team lose football games doing any number of things that you do to lose a football game. And some of it's their own doing, and then some of it, like that play right there, is just like, it's not our year. Like, it's not our year. It's not our game. It's not our season, what have you. And that to me was like prime example of like, this just is not their year, because like normally that never would have happened. You know what I mean? But it's just like, of course it did. Of course it did.
Charlie threw a very deadly pick again. You had the momentum. You had the wind behind you. I think they were trying to go maybe for a jugular, and he threw it to no man's land, and that was a pick that turned the game around for an offense that had nothing. I always felt weird about Bowman with the wind, even though he's been erratic. And he throws picks, but I always felt weird that if he had the ball in the fourth quarter with the one behind him, he would become superhuman like at times he was last year before he was injured.
He's not very good, and neither is Columbi. That's not a good football
Thompson's
team.
the one that made a couple of plays. Thompson, the running back, it was missed tackles. That's the frustrating thing about the defense as well as they have allowed them to be in almost every game. The Texas game, there were 3 or 4 of those long plays from Ellinger to receivers. They went 12 plays, 79 yards at the end of the game to kick what was an extra point to win the game. And you just make a play there. Unfortunately, they couldn't make one.
No, the wind definitely mattered. I mean, I think we saw that clear as day that every offense that had the wind at their back played better. That was clearly, advantageous for Tech to have that at the end of the game, because if they don't, then I'm sure they might have had a harder time. But given the missed tackles that you mentioned, that was what was frustrating. Is like, okay, defense, you're going to have to go win the game again. And the lack of fight that they put up, like, it's not like Tech had to struggle to get down the field. It was like, hey, Baylor, like, this is the drive that's going to determine this game. And you would have thought like it was just some throwaway drive in the first half or something, the way that they just scuttled all the way down moved all the way down the field. That was disappointing to see how either physically worn down they got or what it was, but they could not wrap up at the end of the game.
The play on fourth down would have ended it if you make the completion. It was a heck of a play by the defense. I'm not sure about a 15-yard crossing pattern that takes a long time to get there. Charlie made his mistakes again. You also had the lead in the running game that was effective enough. There's a lot of things to break down, and we will look at all of it. I also want to bring this up. I still wonder, and I asked Dave Aranda about this in the postgame. Not sure if you guys heard me. The IQ of what they're doing with special teams, not specifically at players or even the coaching staff. It's why punt the ball through the back of the end zone when they were on the 30 at Texas and gain 10 yards why not just go for it or try a field goal? And then again, in the game against Texas Tech with the wind behind you, just slam it through the back of the end zone. Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to judge it, but whatever happened to try to angle the ball or pooch kick it to try to get someone to make a play inside the 10?
And he agreed with your assessment.
Yes, he did. I think
he said that it was something they had to work on. So it wasn't like,
hidden yardage. Remember what Sam told us about Texas Tech and hidden yardage? I think it was probably about flat. Both had a long interception return. But the hidden yardage comes back when you're average. The hidden yardage comes back to haunt you.
What did y'all think about the no safety call?
No, I thought that was bad.
It was.
I get it, but I
get it.
But in a game like that, you look back on it and you're kind of like, don't dwell on the officiating. And then but I know Baylor had a lateral situation later on in the game.
Yeah,
so
no question that was a lateral. They were very fortunate because Tech did pick it up.
That felt like they were about to just blow Tech out.
No, they would, and they would have had the ball. It would have been 9-3 and the ball, and
then Tech,
and it was all against the wind too.
Yeah, and then Tech, got out of that. Got out of the shadow of their goalpost. So, that was a big deal. That's the second year in a row against Tech that they should have had a safety and didn't get one.
But listen, Tech can sit there and talk about the butt fumble. So
right, of course. I'm just saying, what did you think of that
Here's what I thought why I didn't like the call. Not because if it was Baylor or Tech. I didn't like the call because of this. If Jalen Petrie had held on to Columbia and then swirled him down to the turf, there would have been a 15-yard penalty for unnecessary roughness or personal foul or roughing the passer. So he had him. He was in the grasp. It was a great play by Columbia in the end because he avoided the safety. At the same time, if Petrie grabs him and twirls him around one more time, then you might see that flag. That's what bothers me about that play.
Well, what bothers me about it is that you watch that, and for somebody who's been watching football my whole life, that's a safety. Like, that is a safety. And the rules have become so, sludged up to protect the quarterbacks and whatnot that it's like, that's suddenly not a safety when everything in my body is screaming, that's a safety. Yeah. And yet
he had stopped his momentum, the forward progress.
Like, that's what I mean, though. That's just, I hate the way football's played.
No, that's what Armstrong was getting into last week. Yeah. It seemed like every other play, there's a hit, a late hit, a flag, whatever.
Armstrong's like, what are the rules?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's like, what are the rules? That's a safety.
If there's any kind of collision at any level, there's a flag just because they just almost feel like they have to. And there's a targeting or there's not. And all right, when we come back, we'll have a high school football segment. Mart and Crawford continue to move on. We'll hear from Kevin Hoffman and also Greg Jacobs. Patrick Lawrence, former Baylor offensive lineman, will join us here in studio at 4. Jordan Williams at 5:30. Phil Bennett at 5, and much more. Sic'Em365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They have the holiday savings event going on right now, and they are providing you once again with a load of great deals, and they're also giving back as well. It's the most wonderful time of the year to save big on all remaining 2020 vehicles in stock and incoming 2021 GMC Sierras, and Sierra is a truck that has it all. Power, first-class seating, unbeatable technology. Sierra is the best truck on the road, and during Richard Carr's holiday savings event, qualified buyers can unwrap $8,000 off a 2021 GMC Sierra Texas Edition Crew Cab at Richard Carr. Maybe you're looking for a top-of-the-line midsize SUV. Well, in case you are, Richard Carr is offering $7,000 right now off GMC Terrains or $7,500 off of Buick Envisions. You can test drive both and save big today. They've also got a compact SUV with loads of space and style, and the new 2020 Buick Encores are under $20,000 at only $18,950. It's over $5,000 in savings on the top-selling Buick Encore. And at Richard Carr, they love their healthcare workers, military, and first responders. Right now, all these valuable community heroes get GM supplier pricing on all cars in stock. And for every car or truck sold now, Richard Carr will donate a new bike to Toys for Tots Waco. So get yourself a great deal and give a deserving kid a bike this Christmas. It's the holiday sales event at Richard Carr. Get there now. Go to richardcarr.com or have them bring the test drive to you.
How can we help you? That's a question we ask every day at American Bank. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Our commitment to our customers is what drives us. It's why we've invested in new branch buildings and technology like ITMs that let you speak to a teller face-to-face from your car. It's why we work with local businesses, helping Waco grow and thrive. And it's why decisions about your accounts and loans are made here in Waco by people who know you. How can we help you? Find out at American Bank, member FDIC.
Bird Culture Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culture Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culture Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culture Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership, online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culture Ford.
How often have you said it's time to get in shape? Every day, every week, every month, maybe for as long as you can remember? How about starting today? I promise if you'll just join Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness now, you'll thank me later. Hi, this is David Smoke, offering a variety of 40 group exercise classes every single week, including boot camp on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:15, plus spin, body shaping, Pilates, yoga, and bar. And oh, there's a free kids club as well. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness open Monday through Thursday, 5 to 10, Friday 5 to 8, Saturday and Sunday 7 to 7, and personal trainers Christy London and Randall Court. World-class tennis facility with pros Britt Coleman and Joe Rosa with lessons, camps, and special events. Spacious and clean workout rooms, locker room for men and women, both with a whirlpool and sauna, and now there's touchless bottle filling stations. No intimidation, tremendous camaraderie, an entirely new atmosphere, and yes, you can do this, but you have to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
MP Electric has developed a quality-oriented electrical contracting service in more than 20 years in the industry. Led by President Mark Perry, our electricians go through a 5-year apprenticeship program, are licensed by the state of Texas, and getting continuous education annually upon renewal. In great part, the success of MP Electric lies with its management and professional expertise of its employees. All of our employees share a dedication to quality and commitment to serving the needs of our customers. For new construction and remodels, parking lot, lighting and surge protection, landscape lights, security lights, troubleshooting, and repairs. For industrial manufacturing, food and beverage, paper and publishing, heavy industry, cement and rock crushing plants, water distribution plants, and utilities. For 20 years, MP Electric has serviced industrial, commercial, and residential products. We do service right. MP Electric Inc. at 1890 Galaxy Road, Waco. MPElectricUSA.com.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance in McLennan County takes pride in backing Central Texas football. Our agents would like to help with your insurance needs. Call 254-772-8090 for an agent near you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Mart High School football coach Kevin Hoffman, and I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new Sic'Em365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This segment with Mart Panthers football coach Kevin Hoffman is sponsored by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine, First National Bank of Central Texas.
One of those weeks where you don't play. I was looking at your record. You're unbeaten at 10-0. And isn't it amazing you're there even though you've had games you haven't played? There's been a couple of forfeits, whatever, but you look up, you've played a lot of games, and now you get to play somebody again in what Lovelady's done. They've had 5 in a row. Your thoughts about Lovelady?
Oh, yeah, they're probably one of the better teams that we're going to see up to this point. I was able to go watch them play last week and got some tough, hard-nosed kids that they play hard. They try to do things the right way, and they play hard. And so we've had some dealings with them in the past and played against them and before at sub-varsity levels and stuff like that. But no, they got a really good team, and we're just looking forward to playing a game, hopefully.
I think the schedule with what opened up after the first half of the year, Normandy's pretty good. Tenaha obviously is, one of those brand names as well. They lost 4 of their first 5. What do you see they're doing better? They've gotten on this 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, they have an identity now, of what they're trying to do. I've seen some film of the early games. You mentioned Normandy and Tenaha. The things that I saw them trying to do. I think they were trying to find themselves with a young coach, a young head coach, and that has some pedigree to his name, but he's branched off away from his dad, and trying to make a name for himself. And I think that's kind of early on. They were trying to find themselves, and they got a nice, big running back, kind of like the one that we saw from Fremont. But I think they found themselves and what they're going to rely on, and they're going to run that guy.
You had the time off. You knew that early with Cumbie, I think even a week ago today. And so what did you do? And you basically did some of these other off-week forfeits, bye weeks, delays help you kind of get through last week?
Yeah, well, it did, but we were really disappointed because we thought that all the bye weeks and all those things and COVID related stuff and forfeits, and, we felt like those were over with because of the playoffs, and it's such an honor. Whether you're a first-place team or fourth-place team, to be a part of Texas high school football playoffs. And we were just hoping to going to play that game. We were deflated, but, we went ahead and prepped for Lovelady, thought they might win their playoff game. So we went ahead last week and found some film on them and found some highlights on them. And we went ahead and prepped for Lovelady last week like we were going to play them. So that's kind of how we handled our week.
Hi, this is Crawford AD head football coach Greg Jacobs, and you're listening to Sic'Em365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This segment with Crawford Pirates football coach Greg Jacobs is sponsored by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine, MP Electric.
Greg, you got pushed a little bit early, but you eventually just kind of put it in overdrive and take care of your business. On to round two. How did you feel about your team and how they started the playoffs?
Well, the two things I was concerned with going into the ball game actually occurred. I was concerned about our special teams, and I was concerned about turnovers, and that affected us in both ways because both of them happened. But we were able to overcome it, and we really played well from that point on. And considering we were off for 2 weeks, I was really pleased with our effort.
You had those back-to-back games in which you didn't play Itasca, then the game with Valley Mills also wiped out. And sometimes that's great late in the year. You get a little bit of a rest, but sometimes you can be off too much.
Yeah, that's true. And, I was really concerned about that, but the mentality of the kids going out to practice this past week was really, really good. They were really focused, and so I was just hoping that we could carry that on to Friday night. Fortunately, we were able to do it eventually.
When you run the ball the way you do, what is that almost as if sometimes you feel like, what is the power of knowing you can run the ball when you need to?
Well, these kids take pride in being able to run the football. These offensive linemen that we have here, it's a big pride factor for them, and I think they just feel like they establish themselves when they can establish a run game. And that just kind of sets the tempo for the rest of the game. So when we're able to do that, it really benefits us a lot.
Rivercrest, they've had a quarterback the last couple of years that was very dynamic. He left. Obviously, they're playing pretty well, though. The loss to Cooper, they've just lost the one game, and they're about to play Bosqueville. What do you see from Rivercrest?
Rivercrest has a dynamic quarterback. He's a dual threat. He's got good speed. He's got a really big arm. He's very athletic. They count on him a great deal in their offense. And that, along with a couple of receivers they have really make them explosive. So they'll be a force to be reckoned with, but we're up to the challenge.
Yeah, and in the fact you mentioned he's dual threat, that always makes it a little bit more difficult. And Miranda's getting to the point where he throws and runs the ball well, but there's a difference in a way that sometimes a dual threat guy that can take off and the speed hurts you as well. Is that one of the things you have to be careful with?
Oh, most definitely. He's got such a big arm in the passing game, but if his protection breaks down, he's out of there in a heartbeat, and he can make things happen in the open field because of his speed and his athleticism. So, it's definitely an issue that we're going to have to, really focus on.
You feel pretty good right now that you got you had those worries that came to fruition that made you nervous, but do you feel like because you now played that game, you clear that up, you feel pretty good going forward?
I think we're beginning to settle back into a normal routine, and that's a good thing. And when you can get that way, I think it really benefits you in the long run.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trust, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
The Black is back. It's the Black Friday sales event at Allen Samuels. Get special holiday deals on the truck of your dreams, like a brand new Ram Lone Star Crew Cab with special factory discounts and financing, or grab hold of the Swiss Army knife of SUVs, Jeep Gladiator, and head for holiday adventure. The Black is back. The Black Friday sales event from Allen Samuels, your friend in the car business.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel at the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Welcome back to Sic'Em365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Here's Brewer, looking to the end zone, got to be a touchdown! Straight Dabney.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sic'Em365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, very excited about what we love about this studio is one, it's very, very nice. And secondly, it allows us to have guests in studio at times. Remember, Grant Tapp was the one that, as we should have on our maiden voyage, the week of with Grant Tapp, among others, and we'll have more. I know that Ashley and Jason King had Scott Drew in studio, and we'll continue to do that along the way, allowed as long as there's access. We want to leave our doors open for everyone. Now, again, thanks for all of your feedback. A lot of you have sent texts and tweets and much more, even on the chat room. We'll get into all of that and more of that in a moment. Mejia football coach Tristan Abram, I had a chance to visit with him earlier. They had to shut down their season this week and the emotions of that. And then also Kim Mulkey on where is Dee Dee Richards as she continues to come back from that collision with Moon Urson. And Moon Urson on what young people in their prime are dealing with right now, like everybody, but how hard has it been? She was very emotional about that. High School Players of the Week, Craig's Q&A, Phil Bennett, Jordan Williams, but right now joining Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, David Smoke, his former Baylor offensive lineman, Patrick Lawrence with us in studio. Great to see you, young man. We're working on your master's degree. Is that correct?
Working on my master's. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So when you went through 1-11, and you were a part of that team, Baylor's 1-5, and you know right now it's not good. They're finding ways to lose, and in certain cases things just aren't going right. What kept that team together, and was there infighting and finger pointing? And if there was, how did you get through it?
Man, well, there was definitely some finger pointing, and I think it just comes down to your core values and your core beliefs and who's instilling that across the team. And Coach Rule just did a fantastic job with that with us. Every week, people were hanging their heads, and as a leader on the team, we would have meetings every week after games and before Monday practice or Tuesday practice with Coach Rule, and he was like, "This is what we have to do." And that's when the process became such a buzz term, is because it's like, this is just how it has to go. So,
was it easier because of that to not dwell on what's going on and just kind of focus on the next thing?
I wouldn't say it made it any easier. No, It was. I would say that was one of the hardest years of my life, was that season, and it's because of you put all your effort in each week and you don't see the result that you're searching for, and you just get let down. But you have to turn it around the next week, and these guys are having to go through the same thing. And I hope it's not to the extent that we had. I don't think it will be, but.
What were your first impressions when you met Matt Rule? Like, what was kind of the talk of the team? Because you guys had Grobe, and you knew that a new coach was coming. Mm-hmm. And I remember when the announcement was made, it's like, who? Like Matt Rule, Temple. Like, what was that kind of like for you guys? And then, you hear the news, you finally know who your new head coach is, and then you get to meet the guy.
Yeah, I had the same reaction probably. Like, who? Because they had all these names. People were saying it was going to be this guy. It was this guy, and ended up being. I don't think he was on anyone's radar, at least in the press. And so whenever he was hired, I was excited to be like, okay, we have someone, and we can go forward with this. And then I remember one of you guys interviewed me after the Rule's first interview that he had, and when he kind of met the team and he gave his official statements as the coach for Baylor the first time. And I think it was with you, Paul. And I just remember the impression that he left on me, and I was like, this guy is something special, and the way he can speak and get people fired up for the purpose that he wants them to serve, he's got an act for that.
Patrick Lawrence, our guest in studio, played at Baylor, going to get his currently working on his master's degree. I thought, and I texted Paul and Craig yesterday evening, I wanted to go back. I looked at the 2017 roster. Jordan Williams will join us today at 5:30. He won't be in studio, but he'll join us. And Jordan was a part of that leadership as he grew along the way. To kind of look at, okay, you guys went through something similar. This is different. You were a coaching transition, though. And then how did you get through it? And we're going to get into some of the great things as well. There are 23 to 20 plus whatever there are players on the roster that went through 1-11. What do you think they're thinking right now? Because they did this already, and I would think it's got to be very disappointing.
I would say it's. I'm sure they're feeling a lot of disappointment, but hopefully they also know what it takes to turn the season around. And I am lucky enough to be able to be up at athletics once a week. And I get to spend a lot of time with Connor Galvin mostly. He's kind of the guy that he sees me sitting there and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go hang out with Pat for a little while, and you know, we chat, and when he tells me how it's going, he likes to give me the inside scoop. But you know, just try to instill in him, hey, you weren't here for that time, right? But you were here for the turnaround, and you were around all the guys that went through something very similar to this. I would say the one difference between that year and this is you guys get to do it again. It doesn't count against your eligibility. So you're lucky for that. But I think these guys know what it takes, and the leadership needs to let that fall down the ranks to the newer guys who are coming into Baylor, kind of like my class was, where I was coming into Big 12 championship, and they're coming into an extremely successful team as well, and they have these high hopes, and when they're not seeing the success that they want, maybe they're not getting the play-in time they want, they have a tendency to hang their heads, and the leadership just needs to make sure that they're on track.
You guys had 6 dudes in that room in 2017 that were scholarship guys. I know you had more than that, but for a walk-on to come in and know that, like, I'm 2 snaps away essentially from having to step in and play when that's not what they expected at all. Mm-hmm. How was that stressful? What was that like to look around and go like, man, we cannot get hurt. Like, we cannot in a position that you don't know, like, you don't know what's happening below you half the time. Yeah. Like, there's all these, you're essentially, playing in a minefield all the time as an offensive lineman, that you go, I cannot get hurt, or if I do, I hope it's not that bad and I can play through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say we got very lucky with that as well, because Blake and I started 38 games together on the right side, and he had that one shoulder injury, and then I didn't have anything until I was actually done at Baylor. So we were extremely blessed in that circumstance, but it's difficult, to say the least. I just remember practices with Rule when he would get there, and he would work our butts off, man. And you'd have 2 huddles going, and we're having to go back and forth, but both huddles, we're the 1s and the 2s, and then if the defense needs a look, we'll have to go do that too, because they need someone who's going to give them a good enough look. So it was terrible, but I think it made us good players, and it definitely made us tougher.
What was the turning point for you guys? Like, you talked about, like, when Rule was first hired, there's obviously the doubts and, like, what's this going to be like and all that, and then the losses are piling up. So, like, what turned the corner, you think, for you guys?
What turned the corner? Well, I just always think, black and white, why we had the issues that we had, and it's what you guys are explaining right now. We didn't have the depth to be successful at that time. And that next season, whenever we were able to kind of, breathe and get some ranks under us and get some guys some playing time. We had that 1-11 season. I remember Ryan Miller starting at center, and he had no clue. Like, he's a tough dude, but he's a fresh off the street 18-year-old. I would have gotten my butt destroyed as an 18-year-old walking into offensive line. And so just giving those guys a year under their belt. I'm trying to remember the exact turning point where in my senior season, where it's like, okay, we're going to have a winning season. And each game was so close, both my junior and senior, even in our 1-11 season. Mm-hmm. we had I'd love to see the statistic. Rule used to throw it around a lot, but we had games that each one of them could have been won, and just one thing went one way and we lost. But that senior season, getting that winning record against Tech in the final game, and then going out and winning the bowl game, those are just memories I'll always remember.
Was it all worth it?
Was it all worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. People ask me, do you wish you would have left, or are you glad you stayed? And I wouldn't have done it any other way. I think I'm speaking for a lot of the guys that were in that room, with especially Blake Blackmar, that we talk about it frequently. Like, we're so glad we stayed and we're loyal to the program, and we're able to build something special, and then watch it kind of unfold last year with Rule's final year. And some of the guys like Tech and Jay Will that you're talking to later, they got to see them go out and compete at such a high level. And now you're seeing guys in the NFL doing well with like JaMychal Hasty and those guys succeeding, and Tech being a part of the Carolina Panthers roster. So
is it the key with the Aranda staff now is that once the guys get I don't want to use the term buy-in because I think that most of them, given the fact that they came out of your rule of like, listen, the hierarchy and respect for the coaches is kind of built into a lot of them. But like once they kind of understand what's different and what's going on, will that be better? I mean, like when you guys not necessarily bought in, but kind of got what he was about, did that make it better?
Yeah, it absolutely made it better. There was definitely a buy-in period. I remember the summer after our 1-11 season, Rule was he works tirelessly, and he does all these events and little just small meetings of trying to pull people together, the people that he thinks are going to be able to change the program. He'd have Blake and I over to cook steaks, at his house, just try and talk to us and what can we do different? What can we do different? He's always trying to learn. And so I think that switch, it takes a while to flip, I guess, is what I'm saying. And I don't know everyone on the staff personally. And for us, it was Rule, and I'm sure Aranda is going to be able to fill that same role. He seems like a special person, and it's probably just going to take a little bit of time.
I was looking at the 1-11 schedule. 3-point loss to Liberty, 7-point loss to UTSA, 14 to Duke, 8 to Oklahoma, 13 to K-State. I mean, there were some games like Oklahoma State got away from you guys, but 38-36 West Virginia, 10-point loss to Iowa State. I mean, you guys, like you were saying, like there's kind of a swing that could have occurred. And that's what I'm watching right now, Patrick, is like they're one play away from winning on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
They're one play away from winning 2 weeks ago. Like there's just that 1 or 2 plays missing to go from where they are right now at 1 win and maybe having 3 or 4 right now. And they've just got to find out how to win. How do you learn to win?
Yeah, how do you learn to win? Rule used to say the same exact thing. And you guys do you realize you're 1 play away from winning this game? And if you look back and he pull up all these games, how would our record look if these one individual plays went a different way for each of these games? And it's not a lot of times it's not anyone's fault that it went a specific way. It just happens. And so I'm sure those guys are going through the same exact thing. Man, if that would have just went differently, we'd have a complete different season right now.
Yeah, for that team, you guys, for the 1-11, it was mostly you just gave up these, like there was this one gigantic, huge play. They'd give up a 60-yard run, and then that was kind of the difference in that game.
Yeah, that's very true. And then that happens just because one person was 1 foot to the right on the defensive line where they should have been 1 gap over to the left. That changes the game completely.
When you heard that term process, how many players didn't believe in that and started to think it was just complete crap?
Well, I think that's probably what takes the most time is like, okay, we got to figure out who doesn't believe the crap, and are they going to believe the crap, or do they just need to pack up and go? Because there is that period when transition, people don't like change, and some people want to stick with it, and some people, they just want to complain about it, so that happens.
Was there a need to purge?
Was there a need to purge? See, this is a difficult question because, people can take it a couple different ways, I think. I think we had what we needed to win at Baylor, and when you have conflicting parties, some people are with the old staff, some people with new staff, and some people just want to win,
Yeah.
And so we just needed everybody to be, we want to win. It doesn't matter who's at the helm. We're all together. So, yeah, some purging needed to happen or just some transitional thought, or change in your thought process.
Patrick Lawrence, former Baylor offensive lineman, with us in studio on Sic'Em365 Radio.
Can you imagine not having spring ball, especially under a new staff, and how could you have possibly navigated with that?
That's terrible. That's so unfortunate. Spring ball is huge for, especially, I can speak to the offensive line in particular. Whenever you have so much change in the starters and young guys kind of stepping into a veteran role, that's where it happens. You learn so much in spring ball. I could not imagine doing a season without it, especially for guys trying to step into new roles.
And how much did that matter in getting to know Rule and the staff initially, like having those practices before you got into fall? Because like with this group, they've been on Zoom throughout. They had no spring ball. They're on Zoom getting to know these guys. Like how much of the getting to know Matt Rule and Fran Brown or Evan Cooper occurred during that stretch as well?
I would say it was 90% took place in spring ball going into that season. And that last 10% just takes a lot longer. But I couldn't imagine doing meetings over Zoom. That's that can't be easy. And you're trying to get to know your position coach, and he's trying to get to know you and what you're like, and they're not even able to practice, in the same way. And it's got to be difficult. I definitely have some sympathy for them in that regard.
I asked Xavier Newman this question last week in the press conference because, especially when he was in the game where he was switching back between center and guard, he was struggling mightily. And part of it was because there's a couple times you watch the film and it looks like he stepped where the center would go when he was at left guard because, your mind, this play is this. And then you get to the play and then it flips over. And because it's hard, like if you flip from the right to the left side, you have to like readjust your thought process where your step goes. How hard is that on an offensive line when they cannot, like when you don't have the same 5 guys and you're shuffling guys in and out or switching positions, like you can't really establish what you want to be, can you?
Yeah, very true. And specifically answering your question of like how difficult it is for X to transition position to position. I like to say if you're going from the right and then you're going to the left, it's like trying to write with your left hand, or if you're right-handed, and it's like, okay, well, how can I switch this? And you have to flip it in your mind completely, and that takes time. I was never very good at the left side, let me tell you that. But and then when you're just having rotating parts for the offensive line, I don't think you see very many successful offensive lines where you're being rotated completely. And there's a few exceptions that just have a studly room where they can, but it's hard to find a room that is able to do that. So there's a lot of chemistry that's built into an offensive line.
What do you think as a former player when you see, the way people criticize Charlie Brewer? I mean, I granted at times, he might make a mistake like every quarterback's going to, but he seems to be the scapegoat. Like no matter what, no matter the way they lose a game, it's Charlie Brewer's fault somehow or another. Like you know him better than any of us listening, watching, whatever. What do you think when you see a lot of that?
Man, I try not to keep up with it much, but I see just rumors of, people throwing around crazy things on Twitter. I will say that, I was sitting at VTEX for a little bit watching that game at the beginning of it, and someone, they say, I hear someone yell something because Charlie throws a pass that's incomplete. It's like, are you watching the game? Like, you got to get to know Charlie and understand his toughness and his competitive nature, and to criticize, these little fundamental issues. It's like he is such a piece for this team. Like the criticism, it drives me personally nuts to hear that stuff.
Would you go into a back alley with him, or would you go in?
Yeah, I remember when he was a freshman stepping in. It was a West Virginia game. He comes in and he's diving for first downs, diving on the sideline, like straight up Superman for a first down. And I'm like, this is what we need, guys. Like, let's freaking go. And we got behind him. That's one of the scores you just mentioned. How much did we lose that game by?
Oh man,
38-36.
Yeah,
okay. 2 or 3 points. Yeah.
I think if we had another minute, we would have won that game. And so that getting behind Charlie was easy for us when we saw that. It's like offensive linemen like tough quarterbacks, and so yeah, he's definitely. I think he's still carrying that presence with this group, and I'm sure the team is rallying behind him. And it's just annoying to hear people think differently.
Yeah. Every time a player, like I've never heard a play, like you don't even get the gossip of like, guys are like, no, they're in lockstep with Charlie. Like that, everybody feels the same way you do. Back alley, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, y'all outscored West Virginia 23-0 in the fourth quarter to lose by 2.
They got on the plane as fast as they could to get the hell out of Waco. Patrick, there is the transition of players who, when they were younger, were more effective and they aren't quite as good, or the guys who come in are better. What's that like in the locker room when you see somebody that Connor Galvin comes in, or, for example, Spencer Drango, one of the greatest, probably the most elite offensive lineman Baylor's ever had, commit to them. When he came in, everyone knew as a freshman pretty much he could play no matter if there was a fifth-year senior. What's that like as a team when younger players are ready to take over for somebody that's done, no matter what position, so much for the program?
That's a tough question. I think I luckily didn't have to experience that personally. But I will say, like you mentioned Connor Galvin, and we were like, put him in, coach. Like, let's go.
He's ready, yeah.
I remember the Texas game. We were like, just put him in. We got to go. And we were having a lot of left tackle issues that game. But I think as a team, you can't be just stuck on every person. I mean, if someone's truly better and the team knows it and the coach knows it, and that person is not going to help your team, you have to be ready for change. So,
is that though one of the harsh realities you have to get when you become a college athlete? When you're a scholarship athlete, you know that you're gunning for somebody. You want to play, but you also know, like, you can see the harsh reality of, like, well, I took this guy's spot, or this is the time. Yeah. Like, you kind of have to deal with that pretty quick, don't you?
Yeah, I guess you do. It's obviously an extremely competitive environment, and that's just the nature of it. But, yeah, I agree with you.
Man, we appreciate your time. We could go on, and we will, because, I mean, you're like almost a neighbor now, or pretty soon you will be. And, and you have your marriage date, is that correct? Or what's that?
Yeah, we set a wedding day. I'm recently engaged, and she's going to be moving to Waco. We're very fortunate for that, and just for the time that it takes for me to graduate, which will be December 2021. So.
And the reason you like the rule meetings at his house, because you and Blackmar love to cook, and we're going to have a big cook-off here in March.
Yes, that's.
Are you going to be his sous chef or something?
Oh, I'm absolutely going to. I don't know if I'll be sous chef, but I will be.
You'll be involved.
The tasting guy. If
Brian Etheridge is putting together what's going to be a phenomenal event in March for us. No question.
Last question for you, Patrick. So for this team, they got 3 games to go. They're not going to be favored to win any of these games. They got a couple weeks before K-State. That's probably their best chance to get a second win. So keeping in mind they're going to have an off season, do you have, like, what's kind of your general vibe on this team? They just need to play more and to eventually get that spring ball in and all of that and just keep grinding? Is that basically the solution to getting out of the hole that they're in currently?
I would say that, but I also wouldn't just count those 3 games as an L immediately just because they won't be favored. And, I mean, anything goes.
Sure.
But and I've had very limited time with this team, especially with COVID. I wish I could be around them more and, get to know the guys and be even a mentor role if I can for someone who's been in this position before. But, outside looking in completely from a 30,000-foot view, I would say that, it's just you trust what's going on and, lick your wounds at the end of the season because they've already lost the majority of their games, right? And get ready for next season when the season's over. But at this time, they still have to focus one at a time on these games and squeeze as much as they can out of them. And I mean, each week's an opportunity to get a win. So.
Yeah, it would sure turn people on their heads if, they might finish 2 and whatever, 3 and whatever, but you beat Oklahoma at the end of the year, or you beat Oak State or whatever. Yeah.
And
no one thought you would beat Oklahoma in 1-11 year, right?
Almost, yeah.
Had them scared to death. West Virginia, 38-36. 2 years later, a year after that, you're throwing balls into the end zone against Texas down in Austin. Yeah.
Yeah, that one still haunts me, but. And I would say with COVID, it's just even more up in the air because, someone could on whatever – who do they play in the next 3 weeks?
K-State up next a couple weeks.
Okay, so K-State – so say whoever K-State star player is exposed. He doesn't even have to get COVID. Yeah. He's just exposed, and he's out. And it's like, oh, well, this just changed dramatically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't done an analysis on these players that they're playing, but I just think it's so much more up in the air than ever before. So –
Patrick, thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
good
thanks,
luck with
guys.
the Masters and everything else going forward with you.
I appreciate it. This is awesome.
We'll see you in March at the Cook-Off, but we'll see you before then as well.
Our neighbor.
Patrick Lawrence, yeah. Patrick Lawrence, former Baylor offensive lineman, on everything maybe imaginable about what's going on, what can be done, and what maybe will be done. When we come back, we'll hear from Mahias, Tristan Abram on their game being canceled. They're done for the season. And then also, Baylor women's basketball had a media session, a couple of notes, especially one from Moon Urson on what she's been dealing with. This is Sic'Em365 Radio. Muscle-wise solution. If you are fighting and battling being overweight and you have tried everything imaginable, at least from what you think you've tried, muscle-wise nutrition. A bunch of doctors got together and said, you know what, we see a lot of, patients that have tried what you call your DIY, do-it-yourself type ways of losing weight, and it has either worked, or if it's worked, you're still losing muscle mass and you don't want to do that. So here's what you can do. They have coaches, basically, doctors, who will help you with this system. If you've tried everything and you're just done, and you're just going to be who you are, that's fine, but why not one more opportunity to try to help you lose pounds, whether it's 10 pounds or 100. Muscle-wise solution, muscle-wise nutrition, and here's how you can get in touch with them, and there'll be a coach that contacts you and takes you through the process. Sic'Em365 at MuscleWiseNutrition.com. Muscle-Wise Nutrition, here's what they do. It's a diet program to lose substantial weight, targeting fat while sparing your muscle. And dieters are seen each week by a coach who performs detailed body composition and analysis. It's Sic'Em365 at MuscleWiseNutrition.com.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Car has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Welcome back to Sic'Em365 Radio.
Log on to the Willis Law Firm chat room on Sic'Em365.com.
All right, some high school football.
Well, while you're grabbing something, Patrick Lawrence just left. Our new neighbor, Patrick Lawrence, former Baylor offensive lineman. And I know that we, always on radio, you can have like in-studio guests and stuff, but this was different, and that was very cool. And very glad that he just happened to, did Brian bump into him the other day?
Yeah, he was out when Brian was cooking steaks the other day.
He was walking around.
Well, I remember him walking in. I just didn't know how that came to be. So, yeah, he's just walking around. So, great to have Patrick Lawrence on the show. He was awesome.
That's also kind of cool about having a studio that's like in the midst of civilization.
Yeah. Kyle Fuller started for the Seahawks this weekend. They lost again to the Rams, and Russell Wilson threw a couple of deadly picks. Xavier Howard had another interception. Jermichael Hasty broke his collarbone.
Tied for the league lead, Xavier Howard, in interceptions. As he just has a knack for it, man.
Bravion Roy,
by the way,
according to Pro Football, what?
Did you see Jermichael Hasty get hit?
Yeah, it was immediate.
Yeah, I feel terrible for him. He, he wasn't a surefire guy to be on an NFL roster, and yet he makes it, and then he gets his opportunity, and now he gets it taken from him. It's just,
he was a guy that Rule kept saying that he's going to be able to play professional football, and you look at his size like you look at many others, and he is on the team, and he was playing. Bravion Roy, according to Mike Renner for Pro Football Focus, top rookies this year: Tristan Wirfs, Bravion Roy, DeAndre Swift, the running back out of Georgia, Jedrick Wills, and Kyle Duggar are the top five, and that's Bravion Roy. Also, I already mentioned Xavier Howard.
Well, it's not
Bravion Roy blocked a kick yesterday, too.
Well, he had a knack for that at Baylor.
Yes, he did.
They haven't done that as much this year, but, maybe they will in the future. But he had a knack for that, and it's good to – that's another guy that you maybe look at his height and you go, I don't know if he's going to make it in the league. But, obviously going to the Panthers, Rule knows what he's capable of. And it's good to see him, doing something with it. I don't know how he's viewed overall. When you get, stats, things like that, it kind of depends on what they're breaking down actually. But – he's played a lot. He's made an impact in his rookie year, and so it's kind of been a little bit of a drought when you have the big misses like Corey Coleman or some of the others that maybe haven't panned out. Xavier Howard's been pretty steady now, but it's great to see Hasty before the injury, Roy, other guys starting to make a little bit of noise in the NFL.
So earlier today, I had a chance to meet or visit with Tristan Abram, the head coach at Mejia. They had their playoff game after a win against Spring Hill. They're not going to be able to play this week. And here is Tristan Abram on the emotions of telling his team and how he had to do it yesterday.
How difficult was that to relay that message to your football players?
I'm going to be honest with you. It still brings a lump to my throat. I was talking to the superintendent prior to putting the information out to the kids, and I wanted to bring every kid up to the field house and tell them, because I just believe that's the way you handle these types of situations, and you don't relay that information by phone or by text or social media, whatever. And I understood his response due to the number of kids, and we already had a positive case. It just wasn't the best idea, but he did allow me to call the seniors and bring them up and tell them face to face, and I was definitely appreciative of that, because they for sure deserved that courtesy. It took me a while to get the information out to them, because I my heart goes out to those kids. You go back to March and everything that's taken place up to this point, and the resilience that they've shown, and just the fight and attitude to just keep going through life, and to have this taken away from them, it's a circumstance beyond their control. If we were to lose a football game, I could say, hey, man, maybe we just didn't prepare well enough, and maybe we just didn't play hard enough. But like this, I don't like to say something's not fair, but Dave, this is something that just truly for me just doesn't seem fair. But I get it. I understand the guidelines and the rules, and it's you can also go to, well, it's okay until it affects me, and I guess that's my attitude towards it right now. But I know that these kids, man, that hats off to them, and again, my heart goes out to them and their families, because it's just different if you're defeated on the field. That's one thing, and I don't know. I just it really hurts. My heart hurts for them.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that right now it just seems like this is flaring up out of, again, it's happened. Other teams have had to do the same thing, but
yes, sir.
You had, when you walked in the door there, you and I talked about this back in the summer, and then when you started working out, and then you had a couple of games that didn't go your way, you had to kind of gain their trust, and you started playing well. You were playing well. Overall, the big picture, have you accomplished what you needed to? Forget about the fact the season had to end the way it did.
Yes, sir. I truly believe so. Someone asked me one time, hey, how do you measure success? And it's not wins and losses to me. It's how many wedding invitations am I getting, and how many pictures of a newborn baby am I receiving from former athletes, and you just hit the nail on the head. I believe that here in a few years, several of these young men, they're going to be sending me some wedding invitations, and I'm going to be getting pictures of their newborn kiddos, and you're right. We have gotten to that point. The trust factor is there. The belief in whenever Coach Abrams says, I love you, I think they really understand that, and they really know that I mean it. And I tell you, after we put a little bit of a grievance aside yesterday, we were dispersing, and a couple of those guys were just hanging out, and man, we got to hanging out and laughing and talking, and they got to taking their shots at me, it was one of those moments, to be quite honest with you, that I wish I could relive it right now, just because of the joy that I saw in those guys' eyes, in my presence, and just to be able to know I got the peace in knowing right then that these guys, they get it, and that I think that they truly understand me, and I definitely understand them, and in the situation that they were put in again last year. So it's just so unfortunate that it has to end now, and it has to end that way. But when it's all said and done, I have definitely some more family members that have the adopted last name Abram for sure.
So that's Tristan Abram. They were going to play Sunnyvale. We saw Sunnyvale opening game. They had their season delayed because of Dallas County in that area. They bounced back to go 5-4. They're in the third round of the playoffs now. They won their playoff game. They now get a forfeit win against Mejia. They'll go on to play the winner, most likely Gilmer. They played Godly. Couple of more notes on college football. Then we come back. We stay here. We have something with Moon Urston and then Kim Mulkey. The University of Miami now with their game against Georgia Tech this weekend, and Wake Forest after Thanksgiving. Both have been rescheduled as they've had a flare-up. University of Miami. We already mentioned Ole Miss A&M, Arizona State, Colorado, ULM, and Louisiana Tech among some of the other games as well. So we know the story with Moon Urston and Dede Richards. They collided in practice, which has been now about 3 weeks, and Dede lost feeling below her knees. She's made more and more progress. We're going to hear about that in a second. Moon Urston, think about what young people in their prime are going through, like the two guys that help us every day, and Armstrong or Jack or CJ and Drake. What's it like? And here's my question for her about just life right now as somebody who's a collegiate athlete or just somebody in college.
It's difficult. It's heartbreaking. It's upsetting. like you said, it's supposed to be the best time of our lives, and it has been. It's been super fun, but stuff like this, stuff that happens never and so much at one time, it's draining. But this program, these people here, they make every day worth. Just keep going, just keep fighting. We always find something to laugh about, to smile about, even in the most difficult times. But at my age, it is hard. It's really hard. Basketball is what we've known all our lives, and that's why we're here. We're here to play basketball, and now they're telling us, oh, you can't put the ball in a hoop because of some virus that came out of nowhere and just stopping the world. But I'm glad to be at Baylor. These past 3 years, going to my fourth, has been wonderful, and I love everybody here.
All right, so that's Moon Ursin, and I think it's probably fair to say that when people heard about Dee Richards and Moon Ursin, and they heard about Dee, a lot of attention. Dee, the Defensive Player of the Year, a couple back-to-back, All-American type player, but Moon Ursin is a straw that helped stir that same drink, and a tremendous player.
Yeah, and I would say, too, that, when it was reported, Moon had a concussion and Dee had a spinal injury.
Yes, and there's a big, huge difference.
Yeah,
absolutely
so I think
correct.
everybody realized Moon's going to be okay. Can Dee walk again? Is the
Forget about
great
basketball.
Fear. Right.
Yeah.
So, this team was pretty good shooting from outside last year with the likes of Juicy Landrum and Taya Cooper. And I answered this actually in the mailbag a couple weeks ago. I think one of the questions was about who's going to step up for the Lady Bears or something like that. Do you realize how much three-point shooting they lost off last year's team?
85% of
85% of their three-point shooting. And Moon Ursin is the main returning three-point shooter, and she was far and away the distant third behind Landrum, and I believe it was Taya Cooper.
I think Carrington will help a little bit.
Right.
But
Moon,
right.
Moon's in that role. Moon's also defensively, obviously. She hustles, and she's not one of the star names, so to speak, but she's definitely, like you said, the straw that stirs the drink.
All right, then this and then a break. We come back with our high school football segment. Phil Bennett and also Jordan Williams, 5 o'clock hour. Here's Kim Mulkey when asked about a status report on Dee Richards, and there's a little bit of humor in part of what she's saying if you pay attention here.
Well, you always see optimism when you see Dee, even when she couldn't walk very well and she was using the walker. She doesn't use the walker anymore. She's running now on the Alter G, and those who don't know what that is, you're only so much of a percentage of your body weight is being used and pounding, but it's giving her the motion back. She jumped in a defensive drill with us last week. A defensive slide drill. And of course, the girls were excited to have her back, but she's not by any means cleared to play basketball. But if you asked me 2 weeks ago, and then today, the difference is unbelievable on what she's able to do now.
She jumped into a defensive.
Yeah.
She's not using the walker, but she jumped into a defensive drill. That is such a Dee Richards thing to do.
And that's just great news.
Yeah,
that's
that
great
is.
News.
And that means she's slowly but surely making progress. When we come back, our high school football players of the week, and a quick look as well through where we are as we enter week number 2 of the high school playoffs on Sic'Em365 Radio.
Got a text from Steve Chapman at Riverbend Liquor and Wine today. They have a special working for Christmas with Balcones and the Waco Whiskey Club, their own special barrel of single malt aged 5+ years. That's awesome. They met this morning with Balcones and the Waco Whiskey Club to select that particular barrel, and they're going to have this at Christmas. So prepare. I mean, it's not ready yet. I mean, they're going to have it now. Should be available right at Christmas. So, go ahead and make your reservations now if you can at Riverbend Liquor and Wine for the Christmas special. And I'm going to get them to put a bottle aside for me. But you can only get it there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. It is their special. So that's exciting things. And they always have the newest Balcones when it comes out in stock at the store. They always have a great selection of craft beer. They always have a great selection of everything. And, of course, their great drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, a hidden gem. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to Sic'Em365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
A group of over 30 physicians in Central Texas became frustrated seeing patients fail at losing weight themselves. They opened Muscle-Wise Nutrition. We've seen too many patients suffer from complications of obesity. Patients who have tried countless do-it-yourself diets, which often results in 25% of the weight they lose coming from muscle breakdown and muscle loss. We needed another approach, so we opened Muscle-Wise Nutrition. This is a coach-managed diet program to lose substantial weight, targeting fat while sparing muscle. Dieters are seen weekly by a coach who performs detailed body composition analysis. Please email us at Sic'Em365 at MuscleWiseNutrition.com, and one of our coaches will contact you promptly to get you set up for our free educational seminars. Lose weight by losing fat and sparing muscle. Start MuscleWise today. Contact us at Sic'Em365 at MuscleWiseNutrition.com.
Welcome back to Sic'Em365 Radio. The Central Texas Players of the Week is brought to you by Bird Culture Ford.
Offensive Player of the Week in Central Texas, Brett Hoffman, the quarterback at Buffalo, 297 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner with 6 seconds left, ran for 114 yards and 3 scores to beat Rice Consolidated 34-27. He's going to break every single school record other than, in fact, he already broke the single-season touchdown passes with 26. Also on defense, DeAndre Sandals, the defensive end from Mejia, 5 tackles, a tackle for a loss, and 3 sacks against Spring Hill. Brody Fisher, Paul, did you vote for Brody Fisher in special teams?
I did.
He had 7 of 8 extra points for Oglesby, and they had the big one. Remember, we had Jeb Dixon on last week. 7 of 8 extra points kicking. That's 14 points. Mm-hmm. They win 62-52. 6-man extra points when you kick them are worth 2 points. Those are the players of the week.
Congrats to those young men. Congrats to those teams. Now, as far as some of the results from the last few days, we got to start off with China Spring 45, Jasper 19.
Yeah, I had a chance to visit with Brian Bell. He'll be a part of the show tomorrow. No way that was on his radar. He said, I thought we might be able to do some things, but no way.
On this guy's radar,
and Craig was on radar. He got him on Pick'em. There was no way, and now they have West Orange Stark, and they have to have a tremendous amount of confidence, and that's a really tough game next with West Orange Stark. But after that, I mean, they didn't beat Jasper. They beat the hell out of Jasper, 45-19.
Yeah, that was a super impressive win. We got the big showdown between Duncanville and Cedar Hill. Duncanville wins 28-14.
You wonder if they might play down the road again in the playoffs, although, I don't know how that would work out. No, that would be Division I and Division II. Cedar Hill will be Division II, so they won't.
So at least you're Duncanville. You don't have to do the Alabama-LSU thing where you beat a team and then have to play them again. Yeah.
No, you won't.
Another game that was a pretty giant matchup between blue blood programs. Allen 56, Denton Geyer 38.
And it wasn't so much, if you look at that score, you go, okay, they added a touchdown. They were up on them big, like huge. And at one point, I think they were up by 25 or 30 in the first half, and I missed that one. I know I didn't miss it. I picked Allen, but I didn't expect it to be a blowout.
Well, and we know from covering Terry Gamble as long as we did, he is absolutely will not run up the score.
Well, no, you got it. He had to score everything he needed, but you're right.
If he has a big lead, like he'll judge that on the case-by-case basis, but he is not going to
put up 80.
Yeah, he won't do it.
Not unless he has to.
Yeah.
So we go from that game where you're looking at over 90 points scored to Lexington beating East Bernard 7-0.
Stunning to me. East Bernard is a perennial power, makes deep runs. We know Lexington has a talented team, but they'd kind of slipped a little bit the last 2 or 3 weeks. Winning the game was not like, oh my God, they beat East Bernard. It was 7-0.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a forfeit score or something like that. Rockdale got drilled by Columbus 42-15. We were kind of split on that one. I don't know. I guess I just underestimated Columbus, but that wasn't even a close game. So
yeah, that was probably one I should have been a little bit smarter on that one. Columbus is pretty good.
Yeah, Holland, big win over Centerville 28-20.
Two teams that just play physical, pound the ball.
Let's see here. Yoakum beat up on McGregor 56-13.
Not a surprise.
No, not really.
McGregor, good run from Mike Shields and McGregor. Andre McDaniel had a good career there, but no, not a surprise.
Let's see here. Dallas Madison took down Groesbeck 36-29.
I had a feeling because their record was like 4-0.
Yep.
And they haven't played a lot. The only concern was Groesbeck was starting to play really well the last few games, but I just felt like Madison's speed would be a difference in that game. Groesbeck lost a couple of key players as well. That's a nice win for Madison considering they played 4 games.
Yes, and, kind of looking around, I think that's, Academy obviously had their season come to an end against Hallettsville. They got beat up pretty good on Saturday. Bosqueville beat up on Marlin 72-6, so they're on to the next round. Italy edged Rio Vista 28-21, so the Gladiators move on to the next round. And nice little shootout in the you mentioned Oglesby and Oakwood already. You mentioned that at the start of the segment. So those are some of the scores from our Pick'ems last week, and not only Central Texas games, but also some of the DFW area.
Be a lot of great games to look at, and we will. The Pick'em, Craig, you moved, one game closer? Is that right?
Yeah, and if Groesbeck would have came through, I could have really made it interesting. But, yeah, I gained ground, so I can't be mad at that.
All right. When we come back, we'll hear from Phil Bennett. And then Jordan Williams, who's a part of that 2017 winner in 11, his thoughts about what he would say or what is going on inside the locker room. If you missed Patrick Lawrence in studio, first of all, you can't. He's big. He still weighs about 300 pounds. He said give or take 5. He looks like he could play tomorrow, and they could use him. But the insight he gave us and the perspective he gave us about everything was phenomenal. And so if you missed it, I hope you have a chance to go back and listen to it or watch it a little bit later on. I know we're up against a break here because we want to hit Phil. Drew Brees, multiple rib fractures on both sides of his chest, collapsed lung. Not sure how long he'll miss time. I would say he's going to miss a few games, right?
Yeah, welcome back, Jameis Winston.
Yep.
Yes.
Also, Cole Beasley. I saw this tweet from Tyler Dunn. He's been unbelievable from day one with the Bills. He had 11 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown in a miracle win for the Cardinals and also for Kyler Murray.
The Bees.
Yeah, no, I will say he's done really well for himself. Kind of like Jeff Heath has gone off and, done pretty well.
2 picks this week. 2 picks.
Yeah, so, former Cowboys that you're kind of like, oh, we could do without them, and they're actually playing really good football.
Craig gave me this. The NCAA announced preliminary talks with the state of Indiana and the city of Indianapolis to potentially host the entire 68-team NCAA tournament in dates of March and April at coordinated dates. So that's just something that if they ever get to that point.
That's what they should do.
At Big 12 this week, it's Texas at Kansas. Coming off the bye, K-State against Iowa State on the road, and Oklahoma State plays in Bedlam against Oklahoma. College game day will be there. And, I'm sorry, Armstrong, we have that? This is something that was after DeAndre Hopkins made that catch to win the game against the Buffalo Bills. This was something that I saw on Twitter that I thought we'd share with Paul Catalina, only because we love him so much. From Molly Knight, do you think the men who traded Mookie Betts and the men who traded DeAndre Hopkins are in a group chat?
Yes, I did. That's exactly what I thought when he did that. I was like, it's just like, I don't know who's dumber, Bill O'Brien or Kai and Blue might be a good general manager, but like the Red Sox or the Texans, you both did dumb things.
I had to share that.
And trading a good player is not a bad thing if you get something back, but you got nothing in either deal.
We have to come back, and we will, with Phil Bennett and Jordan Williams, Sic'Em365 Radio. IdealMRI.com. Ideal MRI located in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco, and they have state-of-the-art American-made GE technology as their MRI machine, featuring the Clinica 1.5T high-field digital scanner with advanced features to help you get the most out of your scan. I mean, they will see every possible thing there is when it comes to something that's really painful for you. Whether it's torn, shredded, or broken, Ideal MRI will find it out and get you the right information. And here's the best part. With what Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff are doing at Ideal MRI, IdealMRI.com, the title sponsor of this show, MRIs can, on average, cost about $1,100. On average. Every single MRI at Ideal MRI will be $497 or less. That's half than the average every time, and sometimes lower. They'll help you with the insurance, the customer service when you go through the process of setting up an appointment, getting to the clinic where they are inside the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco, off Highway 6 and 35, off the loop in 35. It's unbelievable what they do. I've been through it. I've had an MRI on my left shoulder from the time I had my scheduled appointment to when I walked in to check in, talked to the Texan specialist and the MRI. It was phenomenal. If I need another one, I have no question where I'm going. Not because they're sponsoring this show, because I've been there and the process was so seamless and so easy. IdealMRI.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Let's face it, some people just like driving around in the nude. Hi, Jay here from Pickup Outfitters to talk about those truck owners that know they have naked trucks but simply don't care. You'll hear them saying something like, I'm just driving around free and easy, nothing constricting me. Gross. But there is something that can entice almost any naked truck owner. Leather. I mean, they kind of go together, right? And Pickup Outfitters is an authorized dealer and professional installer of cat skin leather seats. So I'm asking you to do your part and help us in and truck nudity. The next time you're near your naked truck owner friend, you can say something like, you know what would really be sexy on your truck? Leather. And they'll get that sly smile, and you know you've hit them in their weak spot. Pickup Outfitters installs factory-matching leather kits or custom kits in just about any color combination for your truck or even car. It's the sexy thing to do. You can be part of the problem, or you can create a commotion with cat skin leather seats at Pickup Outfitters. 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
It's the heat of the summer, but the real heat is what you're cooking on the grill, smoker, or in the oven. So Waco Custom Marketplace can be your go-to playmaker for summertime grilling. You can't go eat anywhere else? Be your own chef with custom ordered and cut ribeyes, sirloins, fillets, New York strips with a focus on high-quality beef at a competitive price. Waco Custom Marketplace also has fresh deli cuts with sliced turkey, ham, pepperoni, or corned beef. Waco Custom Marketplace also your home for the freshest seafood in town. Salmon, shrimp, mahi-mahi. Great priced chicken products, whole birds, tenders, chicken breast, and wings. Waco Custom Marketplace with smoked items unique to Waco. House-made bacon, summer sausage, boudin, hot links, and German sausage. Every seasoning for every occasion, grilling, baking, or frying. Your hometown grocery store with canned goods, pasta, fresh baked bread, buns, chips, sauce, condiments to pickles, charcoal and lighter fluid, cold beer and wine. Best kolaches in Waco, mouth-watering cinnamon rolls, and here for the community every single day, helping you avoid the long lines in crowded stores, serving quality products to the Waco community. Go online for the weekly value boxes. Family owned and operated Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sic'Em365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Oh, that'll be a pick six. Heading the other way. Baylor's in the end zone. Touchdown. Second consecutive week for a pick six by Jalen Petrie.
This segment with former Baylor defensive coordinator Phil Bennett is sponsored by the Nitchie Group Insurance Company, where clients are more than just a policy number. See why thousands of Texans trust the Nitchie Group with their home, auto, benefits, and commercial insurance coverage. Call their Waco office to speak with an expert at 254-420-3900 or visit them online at tngins.com. Now, here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on this November the 16th, a Monday. Baylor drops to 1-5. They have the off week, and then Kansas State next. We're now joined by former Baylor defensive coordinator, longtime coach Phil Bennett with us on Sic'Em365 Radio. Do you have a sunburn? Are you still in Hawaii, or are you back?
You know what? I took the red eye back Saturday night, but I do have a little bit of jet lag. I'm not going to lie to you.
But you always find time for us, even when you were in Hawaii. We appreciate that so much. Phil, where does this Baylor football team go from here? That was a very that's got to be just it just seems like it piles on. Another winnable game, and then they can't finish the game.
Well, you know, it's a slippery slope right now. And I say that not being said lightly. It's, you know, how, you know, they're hearing everything that's wrong with them. Nothing's right. And, you know, human nature tells you, well, it's this, it's that, and then doubt creates. And you know, once again, you know, that was a game that was within reason to win and just didn't do the things necessary to win. So, you know, as I repeat myself, it seems, but it's up to the people in charge and the leadership of that team to keep, you know, preparing at a high level. The coaches, you know, getting better, knowing their personnel, which I see, you know, they are doing a better job of knowing what they've got. And then the players have to take it upon themselves to make the plays that are available to help them win.
Phil, do they look better to you, though, the last 2 weeks? They look to me like they're playing better, aren't they?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And that's what I said. It's obvious to me they're not just playing better. They're being used better. You know, the only thing that bothered me in the whole game, you know, playing at Texas Tech, I've said this many times. I've played there so many times. It's a tough place to play. I don't care if there's no fans there or not. It's just a unique place. And with that said, at the end of the game, I would have liked us to have been a lot more aggressive defensively when we got them backed up on the 14th. And hey, a field goal is going to beat you. You know, I just thought that and this is being a little critical, but I thought we were too, I can go throughout my career. I've been burned too, being more aggressive, but the majority of the time, it's best to try to get them in second long, get them in downs that they're not used to. And we had done it a lot during the game, but we just sort of, we weren't in prevent, but we didn't play with the aggressive attitude that the situation called for.
Coach, how about Jalen Petrie with a second week in a row of a pick six, and obviously he's being leaned on heavily this year, and even more so with Terrell Bernard out. But, I mean, I know you've talked about him before, but just incredible, what he's been able to accomplish so far.
Just a great story inside and out. He epitomizes Baylor. He's a kid that we thought was good enough. We committed him. He stuck with his commitment, had an injury. And he's a football player, just like we all thought he was. And he plays with great enthusiasm. He has an understanding. If you ever spoke to him, he's an intelligent kid. But talking, I remember when he was a young guy and he came to our camp, he had an understanding of how to play football, and he plays that way. It was outstanding play.
Phil, when you have a team that has now slipped almost off the edge at 1-5, they're not going to play for any championship. They have 3 games left, and I don't know. I think everybody might get in the bowl game, but that's irrelevant right now. As a coach, you have to win now. You owe it to those who have been there to win now, the seniors, whether there's a mulligan year or not, to win now. Is that correct? And yet, what is the fine line of also looking at the future, especially with the bye week coming up?
Well, I think, I think number one, your objective is to win and prepare every game like it's a championship. And that's harder said, done than said, without question. But once again, that will come from the coaches. That's their job. That's why they're getting paid and going out and coaching these guys with enthusiasm, which I know they'll do. And then when they're sitting in meetings, they've got to start looking at the future also. And they've got to say, all right, does somebody, wherever position, is there opportunities for us to put them in the game? And we need to evaluate, because I want to tell you something. They're not only evaluating the people on the field, they're evaluating the backup. They need to see where they are athletically and position-wise in recruiting needs. I mean, that's obviously that's going to be a big need for them. I think, I told a friend of mine, he said, what do you see different? And I can tell you quite honestly, there's with Terrell out and offensively with not having, I don't see anybody that's dynamic on our offense right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that offensive line has been a sort of a hodgepodge. It's been tough because the coaches have had different people in there. So they have to get people evaluated to say, hey, are these guys good enough for us to win the Big 12 with? So you be loyal, absolutely, to the seniors, but you also be loyal to the program.
Phil, Patrick Lawrence was just in here with us, and he talked about in the transition between coaching staffs with Matt Rule, part of the invaluable things was the little things that Rule was able to do, having, barbecues or little team gatherings. They haven't gotten to do that this year, obviously, because of COVID, but maybe now because they're practicing and being together, that chemistry is starting to build. It's not something there's a magic formula, but are you seeing the more time spent, the chemistry's building?
Oh, no question. I mean, listen, this has been the most unique year in the history of college football. And God bless those coaches. And I say this with all sincerity, to come in, not have a spring, trying to get to know people, week to week, get the game canceled, having this guy eligible, not eligible, and I think you said it earlier, Paul. The last and there's been more games they've been in, but the last 2 weeks you've seen guys play at a much higher intensity level, and you've seen more guys involved in being the ability to make plays. Guys are getting to know their players better, and you can see that. So yes, I agree with you 100%.
Phil, the locker room. I asked Dave Aranda this earlier today in his teleconference about how can he and has he monitored how they're reacting within the locker room. The offense struggles, the defense is playing really well, although they gave up the long drive. And you can get into something that's splintered, fractured, finger pointing. And he said that he feels like he kind of has an idea of where they are. And yeah, everyone's kind of mad right now. They're all pissed. How do you monitor that as a coach?
Well, I think the head coach and the coordinator set the tone. I mean, the easiest thing in the world is to point the finger. And I think that when you look at the game, you can say, well, the offense didn't do good enough and the defense did. Well, you can also at the end of the game, you say, well, we had the lead and we lost it. So that's why they call it a team, Smokey. And I think Dave can talk about it, preach it. I thought when I went to Baylor, one of the things I told Art, I said, the defense has to quit being the stepbrother here. They've got to be all involved. We got to be accountable, but yet we've got to. And Art knew that, and we did. We became a team, and we lived and died together, and there was a bond. And when we competed against each other, I told a friend of mine the other day, I never had more fun than our scrimmages when I was at Baylor, because they were highly, combative, and they were contested, and there were coaches getting after each other and players, and it made us better. And that's the thing that I look at that they haven't had with the time to do that. And I think that just their leadership from the coaches will keep any of that locker room from being said, because nobody wants to be the guy that says, oh, it's the defense's fault or offense's fault. Hey, it's a we thing, and it's got to come from the top, and I'm sure Dave's doing that.
Phil Bennett with us every Monday at 5 o'clock on Sic'Em365 Radio. Paul?
Phil, nationally now, Notre Dame had the big win over Clemson, and a lot of times, look, the last time they beat a number one team, they beat Florida State and then came back and Boston College beat them the next week. And this history kind of repeats itself when they had to play Boston College again, but they responded the week after a big win over a big team. Does that mean that Notre Dame is maybe taking the next step to actually be a legit contender?
I watched the whole Clemson game, and obviously without Lawrence, they were a little bit different. But I thought that defensively, I knew they could move the ball. They have the freshman running back or sophomore running back on offense, but defensively, they were impressive, and they were better than what I thought they were. I thought they played with they lined up well. They played the run and the pass. And I think, with their quarterback, he's had a lot of reps. They can run the ball. I think that, yes, I think without question, if I'm from the games I've seen, they're a top 4 team right now.
Coach, what'd you think of Monty's big win over SMU? I know Kaz is over on that sideline. You got a lot of connections to both of those programs, but a nice win for the Golden Hurricane.
Well, I want to tell you something. Showed from Zach.
Yeah,
was a guy. Zach. I watched. I'm not going to be lying to you. I watched it. It was 24-7. I thought, wow, they just can't get going. And then I walked out. The next thing I know, the game was turning, and Phillip kept them going. They did a really nice job of stopping. SMU started off with great firepower, slowed the game down, and came back and made the plays to win, and it was a huge win. And that's one of the things, a great example. Last year, Tulsa lost 4, just like Baylor right now. They lost games that could have gone either way, and they were just a hair short, and that's just sometimes, Baylor last year won a lot of close games, and for whatever reason, playmaking skills or experience, they're not able to win those games right now.
Phil Bennett with us on Sic'Em365 Radio. Now, I had a chance earlier today. We'll have the interview a little bit later in the week. I had a chance to visit with Art Briles earlier today on his Mount Vernon team. You know East Texas. You know how talented
Big win against the Bears.
Against Gladewater. They beat Gladewater. When you see them come off the bus, you go, oh, my God. I mean, that's part of what your brother coached there. Jefferson had those great games with Dangerfield.
Yeah.
How big a win was that for him?
It was huge. You know, and Art has told me, he said, Phil, we're not as talented. You know, I guess they lost their running back. He said, but the thing about these kids, he said, don't tell them that they can't win. He said, because they feel like they can. And my brother Jerry had told me before the game, he said, this could be a tough night for Art. And then I get this text. I wake up in the middle of the night, and he goes, they beat them. And that's something, the Art's belief system is he gets to every kid. And I know he's excited. Somebody sent me a picture. And he was glowing. It was fun to see.
Yeah, that was a nice win for them. Anytime you can beat one of those teams.
Phil, I went to his first practice. I guess was that last year. That was last year when they had the media availability for him. And I got a kind of a chuckle out of everything because that team had been running the slot tee before he got there.
Right.
And so he was out and he was telling them, like, look, go out past the hash. And they're like, what? Like, no, go out there. It's fine. It's legal. Go ahead. And it took him, you could see him, he was, of course, having fun with it, but it took him half the practice to get them to understand, like, no, you're allowed to go there. It's not, you don't have to stay in the slot.
Well, he told me he's had a lot of fun, and the people up there have been wonderful. And I think it's been great for Art. He loves, I told this many times, I don't know if I've been around a guy that enjoys just the passion of football as much as he has.
He told me today that he loves to turn the light on and the camera on. The light's off and the camera on, and he's at peace when it comes to watching film. Is that what you got from him as well? He loves the game day challenge as well, loves winning. He still won't use that L word. Non-wins is how he describes a loss, which is kind of what he's always been. But when he's in a film room, and we hear this about Coach Aranda, when the lights are on or you got a clinic going on and it's just like you're at peace with that. Is that the way you were, or did you like game day?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Being in Hawaii, I was over there and I'm trying to help them with some things. I think that's probably put very well. There's a calmness. It's about sort of who you are. But the thing that I really believe about Art and myself and Dave, and we also like to take that and the challenge of transferring your knowledge into a player's knowledge. We were so dynamic on offense and we got so much better defensively. And Art's system is unbelievably simple. His verbiage and we sort of built on that with defense, and just he has a unique ability to get his knowledge transferred to those players.
Phil Bennett with us. Craig, anything else? Yep. Is that one reason why you think that sometimes the transition from Baylor's offense to the NFL became difficult, especially for the wide receivers?
Oh, yeah, no question. Hey, listen, there's guys in the NFL that all they've ever done is work in front of a computer. And they're ate up by listening to themselves with verbiage. Now, not the great ones, but if you've ever listened to people like Gruden call a play, it's ridiculous. It's not that complicated. X, Y, Z, banana crossing, slot. That's the biggest bunch of BS. And then take a 10-yard sack and they blame the quarterback. And that's the thing in college right now. You see the Ole Miss South Carolina game, 1,500 yards offense. Nobody could get lined up. And I see everybody. One of the things, you can't play defense or offense without getting lined up right. And so simplicity, the ones who can be simple. Reason Brent Venables had learned from playing Art. He told me many times. He said, I'm not the coach. He said, Art helped me become a better coach because I had to be simple. and that means something.
That is interesting, isn't it? That's a great way to describe it. Did you cuss him out when he offered you the job? You said, "Yeah, I'll take it, but I hate you for the offenses that are being run in the college football today"?
You know, I tell you what, I told you the story one time. I was in Shreveport, and Billy Napier, who I worked with at Arizona State, came in, and we were at one of the schools over, one of the private schools, and he came, "Hey, Coach Saban's out in the car." I said, "Well, tell him to come in. Go get him." And, you know, he I don't know, he don't want to get. I said, "Tell him I'm in here." So Nick came in, and Nick came in, and Nick had great respect. He goes, "Hey, Phil, get your staff and let's come down. Let's talk about, let's talk about the offenses. These offenses we're all having to face now." And I said something to Art about it, and I wasn't stupid. And Art goes, "Hell no, you're not going down."
Hey, on Brent Venables, he's going to be a candidate, I'm sure, at South Carolina now that they've let Muschamp go. Do you think I think he's ready to be a head coach, don't you, Phil?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, it's on Brent's timeline. He's a wonderful guy, wonderful coach. There's some things, though. I mean, one of the things that Brent knows, he knows himself. He's got a son playing at Clemson. He's got another one that's coming up. He's not one of these chasers. He's not a guy that he can be comfortable with who he is. And I think that speaks volumes about him. I know Coach Snyder used to tell me, Brent was a walk-on from Salina. He was just a sharp, great young man. And he's done a fabulous job, everywhere he's been.
Phil, what do you think right now Dave Aranda is experiencing? He's obviously a cerebral, an incredible person. Obviously, this is a tough time. What they've experienced, as you said, is the worst thing in college football history as far as having to try to put football teams together. Some are succeeding, some are not. Penn State's 0-4. Michigan can't win. What do you think right now? How does he just bunker down, go into the X's and O's? What do you do right now?
Well, first of all, I know Dave. Not greatly, but I know him well enough. Number one, he's a guy of faith. He believes in what he's doing. He believes he can impact these kids. I know, everybody wants to criticize his staff, and he's going to protect his staff, which he should. Now, he's coaching them. I guarantee you, he's coaching them. And you learn, you don't panic. I mean, and just like Paul said earlier, I've seen dramatic improvement as a team the last 2 weeks in position. Let's just face it, last 2 weeks at the end were heartbreaks. And you keep pressing that button, the rewind, and you keep imposing your thoughts, your beliefs. I hate the word culture because a culture, for some reason, I don't like it. But his beliefs, and those kids will see, you know what, this guy believes in what he's telling them. And he's a stand-up guy. He has a stand-up staff. I know every one of them. And he'll be the guy that goes around picking them up. I can remember I went 0-12 at SMU. We played 7 games that we could have won right at the end. Just couldn't do it. We weren't good enough. Now, I can say that now, but you keep looking for the edge. How can we get then you go 3-9, then you go 5-6, and I'm not saying that, but it will, if they can finish, find a way to beat K-State. That's the number one thing. Find a way to win one, and then the next week regroup and do it again. And I say this so much. I mean, being a leader is action. It's not so much words; it's action. And I've had people tell me, "Well, Dave's not very excitable." You know what? You don't have, has anybody watched maybe the best coach in the history, Bill Belichick? Have you ever watched him? Mm-hmm. I mean, would you ever think that anything would give him a rise? But he's a teacher. And whether Dave's leading the cheers or he's sitting there analyzing the game, it's the preparation that they're starting tomorrow and today to get ready for K-State. And as you said, with an open date, I will bet you there will be some things that they will have time as a staff to sit around, evaluate, hey, should we get this guy? Should we start looking at this guy? And I think you'll start seeing a little movement for the future.
He actually said that Tony Dungy told him back when he spoke to him, he leans on him a little bit, there's going to be a time when you're going to lose, And people are going to look at your personality as the reason the team plays the way they do. And he said, don't ever change who you are. Tony Dungy was that way. Lovie Smith was that way. You mentioned Belichick. And that's it. You know, you are out there. I mean, everyone knows what's on the sleeve, on the edge of your everyone knows your emotion, right? There's just certain people built differently.
And you know what? That's just who Dave is. And that's okay, because he's been pretty damn successful.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing, if I had to say, anybody that knew me, I never changed who I worked for, who I was. And I think that's something to be commended. And I wouldn't ask Dave to say, hey, try to go out and to do some hype job that you're not feeling. Don't do that. You know, be the coach that you are.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Craig, anything else? Paul? Thank you, buddy. That's Phil Bennett, jet lag and all, with us on Sic'Em365 Radio. Craig, an update from Baylor Athletics?
Well, I would say Nick Saban's not a big personality either, if you really think about it. There's nothing he does in his press conferences. The sidelines, he can get a little animated, but they're also showing him way more than they're showing at Dave Aranda. Yeah. So, I mean, that's another guy who's not Mr. Energy. But Baylor COVID update, one active case, one new case. They had all of 0 last week. It is a symptomatic case, so one new symptomatic case is the only one right now in the athletic department. They're monitoring 4 when you include the primary contacts, but that's good news, and you got to keep it that way, and it's going to be easier said than done given, all the rashes we're seeing around the country.
Yeah,
right
with
now.
Games being canceled left and right again, with A&M Ole Miss out among some others, La Tech and UL Monroe. Armstrong, do you have that graphic for me? The Masters promotion. I want to do this. Take a break. Come back with Jordan Williams, former Baylor linebacker. So I put up on the Sic'Em365, the premium board. Send me 4 names. You saw it last week. 4 names. Your 4 picks for the Masters. You could only take 2 out of a clump of 10, and yet they just destroyed the course. The winner is Stephen Mason. Dustin Johnson was 20 under, McIlroy minus 11, Hideki was minus 8, and Cantley minus 7. He was 46 under par. Colton Tucker finished second. Aaron Dupree third. John Hedrick was 4th, and then Matt Norton finished 5th. There were about, I'd say, 12 to 18 people who had players who missed the cut, and almost every name was either Wolf, Hatton, Day. Oh, my goodness, and there was one more. I forgot the other name.
There's Wolf, Hatton, Day, right there.
It was one of the names that was a pretty prolific name.
Tyrell Hatton's dead to me.
Yeah.
Listen, Jason Day better go cook some shrimps on the Barbie down in Australia. I'm very upset about that. Although I wouldn't have won any, and I had a chance to look. My dumb thing is I was superstitious about Dustin Johnson. Maybe he owes me. Maybe he didn't fall down and break his back because
you gave up on him like you did Tiger.
I did not get well. What did Tiger do for you this week?
He killed my team with Rob Bolton. He went +7 on number 12, but then grinded out with 5 of the last 6 holes, 11 for that. All right, coming up next, we've heard from Patrick Lawrence, and a lot of you commented on how he gave you insight from within the locker room. Jordan Williams will do that next. He was a part of that 1-11. What does he see? What does he think? What's going on inside the locker room? Jordan Williams next on Sic'Em 365 Radio. PettyClinicLowT.com, comprehensive men's health care. Low T therapy. They can even help you if you want with your sleep apnea. He will get your blood work. Call him or contact him at PettyClinicLowT.com. The number's there. In fact, you click on it, call us today up in the right corner. Contact them. Tell them you are interested in checking what your testosterone level might be. As you get older, it starts to drop. No question about it. It does. It's kind of like as you get older, gravity takes over, but with testosterone, your levels will drop. Some of you fortunate, some not. Dr. Petty will help you get discounted lab work. That's your blood work. That's your blood count, and check out your testosterone levels, and also even check for cholesterol, your PSA level for prostate cancer too. And then he'll check your levels, and if your testosterone levels are too low, he'll put you in a program to help increase your testosterone levels, whether it's by just a little bit or quite a bit, and help you become the high-performance man that you want to be. 1 out of every 3 men have some sort of symptomatic low testosterone issues. 1 out of 3. Fatigue, poor sexual performance, ED, loss of even sexual interest, decreased muscle mass, weight gain, depression, mood swings, poor sleep, poor mental focus. PettyClinicLowT.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
If you or a loved one or friend has been arrested and you can't afford bail, trust Terry and Chase Chapman at Chapman's Bail Bonds, covering Waco and McLennan County for over 25 years. Chapman's can bail you out anywhere with experienced, knowledgeable local agents who are committed to serving you professionally, respectfully, and with the highest integrity. Chapman's understands your privacy is important. Your freedom can be secured fast when you use Chapman's Bail Bonds. Open 24 hours a day. Payment arrangements available. Call Chapman's Bail Bonds. When you need help, 254-754-1603. When you ring, we'll spring.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to Sic'Em365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sic'Em365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
We'll hear from Jordan Williams here momentarily, 5:36. We're running about 5 minutes behind. Jordan will be next. By the way, new names on the 2021 Baseball Hall of Fame ballot.
I think we need Paul over here for some thoughts maybe on these. But, yeah, go right ahead. Sorry.
Mark Burley, A.J. Burnett, Michael Cutterher, Dan Herron.
It's Kadire.
LaTroy Hawkins, who's Pat Mahomes' buddy. Tim Hudson, Torrey Hunter. Aramis Ramirez, Nick Swisher, Shane Victorino, Barry Zito. I don't know anybody.
Not a great list.
Not a great list of the new ones.
The only two you can make an argument for because of their wins and losses would be Burley and Tim Hudson, but I don't think they had enough. I think they're in the Hall of Good, not the Hall of Fame.
And it's the Hall of Fame. We're now joined by former Baylor linebacker and someone who was always a go-to interview through thick and thin, Jordan Williams from Paris, Texas, joins us on Sic'Em365 Radio. I don't know where you are right now. I didn't ask you that last night. Where are you these days?
I'm in Austin, Texas right now.
Okay. Oh, Jordan, great to have you on. We had Patrick Lawrence on earlier, Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoke. Jordan, this team is struggling, no question. You went through the trials and tribulations of 1-11. What were some of the things that kept you guys going? And when you had the coaching transition from a popular coach to what then, of course, was the Matt Rule coming in with this completely different mentality of a lot of things, how did you get through that? How do you expect them to get through it right now?
Oh man, it's like it's very easy to say. It's harder to do, but every day you got to keep going out there every day and just trusting the process, man, and knowing that each and every day that you're getting closer to the light. You're getting closer to a 11-win season, or you're getting closer to something big. And I feel like the team is. In itself, it's a lot of guys that have never been able to play, or not been able to play, but they haven't been, ready to play yet. And a lot of guys are getting their opportunity, and they're starting to see that more and more. But the more and more that, that they get to know Coach Aranda and their staff and just buy in and just really take over and make it a team's team, then that's when the light will switch. That's when the fans will be able to see the transition on the field.
What was that moment for you?
Oh man, it was honestly when we got beat 2017 or was it 2018? It might have been 2018, West Virginia. We got beat really bad, and man, it clicked for me that like, man, the only way we're gonna win is if we want to win. The only way that we're gonna win is if we go out there each and every day and we hold each other accountable, because we're not playing for anybody else, than anybody inside that room. And then once you start holding each other's back like that, then the sky's the limit.
Jordan, that was that 58-14 out in Morgantown that you're referencing there. That was during the 2018 season. How much of what you're speaking about is the players themselves stepping up, embracing, and becoming the leaders? And how did that kind of naturally happen with your group of guys?
Oh man, honestly, it was like we would talk about it over and over and over again. And we just really wanted to have a really good senior year. And, we kind of just took it upon each other to, like, not let anything slip, not let anything slide. Like, we all were yelling. We all were getting on each other. We would get on each other as seniors. Like, it was just the ability to stop worrying about everything else when you step on that field. The ability to, just focus in on what the goal is that day and to get 1% better. And that's all you can ask for.
When Matt Rule started using that term process, did you roll your eyes?
Honestly, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that there was going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. All I saw was we getting beat 1-11 season. We never really saw the end. And my senior year was amazing. And it's kind of like all the fruit, all the labor and stuff. We got to see it on the field. We got to see it in just the way we practiced, the way we played, and everybody started to see it more and more that, we were out there about our business.
You were one of Matt Rule's favorite guys to talk about. Did you have he loved to talk about you and your leadership and all that when he was here. What was it about his personality and you in particular that clicked?
Oh man, me and Coach Rule had a very weird relationship at first. Like, I never understood like how to take coaching and just take it and not have a reply. I didn't never understand how to listen and not be trying to answer. You know what I mean? I was able to hear him more and more, and I think that's really what he wanted out of me. He saw that I was a cool guy. I was one of those guys that, I really never wanted to put myself out there. I never wanted to be, different. I never wanted to be anything like that. And he saw that, and then, he just kind of pushed, and he would get on to me, and we would go back and forth, and then he would explain it to me. And it was just kind of don't know. It's like when you grow in love with your parents after you get older. Like when you turn 22, y'all become best friends, you know. So it was at first he was getting on me like I was a toddler. Then we became friends.
Yeah, you just kind of button heads a little bit, right? And had to work your way through that. Jordan, what was that like to experience the successes of last year? You know, whereas this team's fallen short at the end of games, you guys were able to close out nearly every one of them, except for a couple, obviously. But I mean, to have that payoff of knowing where you were to where you were now and seeing that success and just going through that each week. I mean, just what was it like for you last season, week to week?
Oh man, it was. Honestly, it would be short-lived. You know, we win the game, and as immediately as Sunday, as we woke up, as we, fixed our schedules to go in the next week, all we thought about was the next team. All we thought about was getting out there and learning that scheme and learning that playbook and learning the things we needed to know so that we could beat this next team. Because what we did last week doesn't even matter, you know. And honestly, that's how the guys have to look at it now. What they did in these few games before this game, it doesn't matter. Anything before all of this, it does not matter because you can't go back. All you live in right now is the now. And the only thing they can do is handle that and keep pushing forward to be better in this next game. Because at the end of the day, you win, you lose, you draw. You can't go back, you know. So it's drawn in the sand. You just got to keep pushing.
I asked Patrick Lawrence, Paul did, and Craig. We asked him a lot of questions about the comparisons between he was a junior during 1-11, coaching change, and of course you were much young, a little bit younger, and then saw, as you mentioned, the fruits of your labor. What about the locker room, Jordan? And you have some that are under an old regime that was very successful and turned the corner. Just like when you arrived, there was the Bryles group, and there was a lot. In fact, you were recruited by Coach Gush, your football coach at Paris, called Bennett and said, hey, I got this guy, Jordan Williams. What is that like when there's transition, and is there infighting on this is the way we've done it, and yet you understand the coach, that's his program too?
Absolutely. There's a lot of pushback, just because, those guys didn't recruit them. They didn't recruit us. Coach Rule didn't recruit me. And you had to like there was resentment, there was pushback, but at the same time, we started seeing more and more, like as being a young guy, I was a sophomore, junior at the time, and I was able to see the seniors before me and learn from them. I was able to see how it was supposed to go, how things are supposed to be done. And like going back to that game, when we cut on that 48-14 or that 52-14 loss, whatever it may be, you saw Greg Roberts and you saw McKendrick Barnes chase down people that were 30 yards in front of them. And that set the standard, and growing from Browse and to Rule and then now into Aranda, I feel like, you really just have to just take it what it is. You can't judge, you can't criticize, you can't compare it, you can't do any of those things. You have to go out there and implement that like it's your life. Like you have to go out there and push forward like that's the only thing you've known since you've been there.
Patrick mentioned the little off-season get-togethers is key as well. And all those things that you guys did together as a team, what would it be like for you not to have them like they did this year?
Oh man, that would be that was probably one of the best times we had. Like it was just us. Like we threw like pool parties, like we threw little things where it would just be us. Like the players put it together. But if you look at it like a metaphor, we put it together, we did it, we had fun. That's the way that we had to put our team together. So once we started like implementing like that we care about each other, it was easy to be tired and look to your left and I would see Clay or Terrell, and I would look to my right and see Blake, and I'd be able to lean on those guys because I knew that I was playing for much more than myself. And I think that's the biggest thing that came out of like the locker room and doing outside activities together.
Jordan, obviously this team suffered a blow with Terrell Bernard's injury, and they're having to rely on some new guys that to keep things going on defense. What did you see from Abram Smith during your time around him? I know he probably was playing a little bit of running back. I know there was some play at linebacker, but now he's a full linebacker, and Ashton Logan as well. What are a couple of things maybe you notice about those two guys?
Oh man, Abram has went through challenge after challenge after challenge, and he keeps coming back even stronger. He's tore his ACL twice since he's been at Baylor, and he's transitioned from running back to linebacker. He's just a hard worker. The guy goes out there every day. If you watch him on kickoff, it's the most exciting thing ever. You watch him on kickoff, he's running through people. He's very aggressive. So I think that transitioning into linebacker, that'll be very, a very smooth transition for him because, he doesn't mind putting his face on people. He doesn't mind the contact, the physicality. And I think it's, it might be just new for him at first because that movement is a lot different from running back. But at the same time, I feel like he'll be a good fit just because he's a guy that'll go out there and work. And then Ashton Logan has just been, this is his time to shine. This is his first time, to actually get out there and get a lot of PT. And he's showing it. Like, man, he's huge now. Like, he's probably gained 10 pounds since I've seen him. He's changed number and everything. So I feel like, this is a good time for him to show exactly what he can do.
Jordan, what's the difference between those who speak or yell or scream and those who are actually maybe leading in a different way? Is there a nice mixture of those who might bark and they are good at it, or those who just go about their business and show it in what they do?
That's a really good question. I battled myself about those things. When I was coming into the leadership role, it would be like because I wasn't a guy that liked to yell at people. I wasn't a guy that liked to do those things. I like to lead by example. But like you said, it's a mixture. You have to build a relationship with each person that you want to hold accountable. Because if you don't have a relationship with anybody, like if you don't have a relationship with a person, then you don't know how to come at them. You know what I mean? You don't know if you should bark. You don't know if you come like respectfully. You don't know if things like that. And like you said, it's really a mixture. Because you got to know some guys really need it and some guys really don't. And those guys that can handle it, they can take it. And, it's just you got to know your players. You got to know your guys.
How much do you think that team loves Charlie Brewer? The fans can be one way and, have complaints and things like that. I wish he wouldn't have thrown that interception, things like that. How much does that team love Charlie Brewer, Jordan?
Man, I can tell you this now. Every team that's played or every class that has played with Charlie Brewer loves him to death because he's a fighter. He's a dog. He is the epitome of toughest, hardest working, most competitive guy out there. Like, he goes out there, he took some of the most brutal hits I've ever seen in my life. He got up and took it off like nothing happened to him. And it really kills me that, that people really start to turn their back on him, because things start going bad. But you see him go out there each and every week fight. You don't ever see him, come out there and lollygag or not play as hard as he can. Like, you can never fault him for that. It might be different from the schemes and things like that, but at the same time, everybody loves Charlie because everybody knows what Charlie's about. Charlie's a winner. Charlie's a ball player. He's not about no selfish things. He's not about, I'm the quarterback. None of that. He puts himself in each and everybody's shoes. He outworks people on the team like that play different positions. He is one of the hardest working people I've ever met, and that guy's a dog. And anybody that ever has anything bad to say about Charlie really don't know Charlie.
Jordan, how much do the players, winning or losing, good times or bad, pay attention to what is being said by the fan base, whether it's on social media or around campus, although it's a little bit different this year, or even does anyone ever, like, for example, have somebody, hey, they said this on so-and-so.com?
Right. I mean, one lesson I really learned, and I learned this from Kaz Kazadi a lot. He'd always be like, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid." So, you don't look at those things. You don't read those things. You don't read about yourself. You don't. I don't know. In the locker room, we push to that we're about everybody in this room. Like, that's the people that matter, and the people that come out there and support us. That's who That's who we're playing for. We're not playing for those guys that are naysayers, that have doubts or that have negative things to say. And I feel like if you look at those things, that'll give you your perception of yourself. So at the same time, you can't read those things. You can't go look at it. You can't look them up. You can't go find an article about yourself, about another team. That you have to keep focusing each and every day on what's the plan, what's the process. And that's getting each and every week, just getting better and then getting ready for that team.
Jordan, I was watching the Panthers yesterday, and they had a defensive struggle because the Bucs were hot, and they showed a couple of times Phil Snow pacing on the sidelines. Can you watch Coach Snow and know exactly what he's thinking when stuff like that goes down?
Absolutely, I can hear him ready to yell already. Oh man, that's crazy, man. And seeing him do it at different levels is amazing.
I saw this. Phil Bennett shared this with me. He said one of my brother's ex-coaches, Steve Hohenberg, the head coach at Paris, and they won their first playoff game this week, called my brother Jim. He called his brother, one of his brothers, and told him about Jordan. And Jim Bennett immediately called Phil, drove to Paris with Jim Gush the next day to see you. Do you remember how all of a sudden Baylor just showed up at your doorstep?
Oh man, that was an amazing experience for me. It's all God. Like, I was looking for an opportunity, and it found me. You know what I mean? And the fact that, you know, Coach Hohenberger did reach out on his part to get me in contact with a Power 5 university, it was mind blowing to me. And they called me in the office, and after that, man, I screamed and yelled in the locker room, called my mom. Man, I was in shock because I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming. And then Coach Bennett was the character, and Coach Gibbs was, oh man, that's my guy. So, you know, once I met those guys, it was all set in stone. I wanted to go on my official, and then I was like, as soon as I got there, I was like, yo, I got to sign. I got to.
By the way, you talked over Jordan a little bit there. Jordan, Paris over Dallas Lincoln, 56-26. You were pretty fired up about that one, huh?
Man, shout out to them Wildcats.
There you go.
Shout out to the Wildcats.
There you go. In that East Texas area, that in 4A, man, it can be really difficult. I guess the last part is you played in 2016 when Taylor Young, an incredibly popular player and a great player, was injured, and it was your time. How much did you have to take a deep breath, replacing a great player, also having to play so quickly, and how did you get through that time?
Man, I remember all of that. It was the Thursday before the game, it was the Thursday before that game, and we were at practice, and Taylor got hurt. And when he got hurt, you know, we was like, oh, he'll be all right. He'll be back for the game. You know, I wasn't thinking none of it. And the next morning, we were headed to the hotel, and they're like, hey, Jordan, you're going to have to play tomorrow. And when he told me that, there was no, you know, I didn't have no answer. I was just like, okay. And after that, I was so nervous because it was in OU, and it was a packed house, and that was when Baker Mayfield and D.D. Westbrook and Samaje, and oh my gosh. I wouldn't say I was nervous, but I was excited, nervous. I was everything. I was so excited, you know, happy to be out there, but I also knew that I had to show what it was. I couldn't let anything fall from the standard that Taylor played with. So, you know, I had to hold myself to an even higher standard to go out there and to keep the ball rolling.
And you did. Eventually, you learned it. You got it. You had wins. You ended up last year. You were part of that great run a year ago. Anything else, guys?
Nope.
No.
Jordan, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do and also kind of give us insight into the locker room when things aren't good or when they're great. So we appreciate you and Patrick Lawrence as well, and have a great day.
Hey, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. You have a good one.
Jordan Williams, I could talk to him every single day. Patrick Lawrence every single day. One story that was a part of college football today, and really college athletics, and this could hit close to home. There was a USA Today investigative report that LSU was at least allegations of infants infested with sexual assaults and a lot of things that were swept under the rug, and people turning their head or not reporting or covering up. Whatever is the truth, we don't know. But LSU's president, who might have been a part of some of that, just announced they're going to hire an outside firm.
Yeah, the report says that LSU mishandled sexual misconduct allegations against students, including several top athletes. And Orgeron had to make a statement earlier today, and he talked about complying with the proper protocols and all of that. But USA Today found rape allegations against Darius Geist by 2 women were doubted, ignored, not properly investigated, and not reported to the proper authorities. At least 7 LSU officials had knowledge of Drake Davis having a violent relationship with his girlfriend, but sat on the information for months while he continued to assault and strangle her. He's been arrested multiple times for domestic battery, apparently, and he had been booted off the team back in 2018. There was another part of it, and I won't go through all of it, but at least 9 players have been reported to police for sexual misconduct, including 2 who played a huge role on last year's national championships team, and details have been kept quiet. So that's what there's a lot of allegations here. Like, you even want, like, if you want to compare it to the Baylor thing, like there weren't this many initially. Like Baylor was Samu Kawachu and not specifics. Like, it was like a overall thing on Samu Kawachu that eventually turned into a story that we knew about all along with homeboy in jail, Tevin Elliott. You know, and then that started them digging from like year. This is all like relatively new. This is all very specific, and this is all numerous football players. And I don't know Twitter as well. I've got a lot of people muted and things like that. I certainly don't feel the backlash that Baylor got when their story dropped in Texas Monthly. I'm not feeling that at all.
Same writer, by the way, too.
Oh, is it now?
Jessica Luther, yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's one of the 3 writers of the story.
I'm not feeling that kind of it, but I'm also not an LSU media guy, so maybe it feels that way to them right now. I don't know, but it's very interesting. So to your point, they have hired an outside law firm, Hush Blackwell, which apparently was the one that looked into Iowa this past summer. Yeah.
Well, about the strength and conditioning coach whose son's now playing for Baylor, right? And Dylan Doyle.
Same thing over and over again.
Also, real quick, and I know we're up against the time, but UT's Tom Herman today was asked a question about speculation. Does he pay attention to all the chatter about Urban Meyer and Austin and the recruiting class? And he went on what was almost a 5-minute monologue about many things, and bottom line is that he said he's got the backing of the administration, like he gave himself his own, what's that called, when a president says you're going to be okay?
Kiss of death?
Well, maybe. Yeah. But it went into a long explanation. We have not had a lot of time to get into it. That'll be interesting to see. They're playing Kansas this week, so there's got to be something else to discuss, and they're coming off a bye week. But he defended himself and said he's in constant dialogue with the administration. There seems to be even this innuendo that because of Del Conte, the AD, not saying much on his Twitter account, his Twitter feed about football success when they've had it, that there's, this tension. I don't know what's going to happen, but that was interesting today.
That's a big jump to make, I think. What? That Del Conte's not tweeting about?
Yeah, well, I mean, but I'm just telling you.
This slide into Herman's DM.
To me, it would have been interesting. How do you ask that question? But it was asked, and it took a lot of nuts to do it. I don't know if that was the right time to do it, but it was asked, and he went into a 5-minute answer.
No, I think it's ridiculous to ask that question and specifically name the guy that people are having rumors about. I think that if you want to ask a coach about feeling the hot seat or questions swirling. But that to me is the website who started all of this talk about Urban Meyer and continues to throw gasoline on all this talk about Urban Meyer, throwing even further gasoline by directly mentioning a rumor that's not even substantiated in any way, shape, or form to the actual head coach of Texas. Like, that to me that's out of bounds, man. Like, that's totally out of bounds.
You know what I learned about that? You get someone off to the side, and then if you don't, then you tell the SID, hey, I need to ask this question and go from there.
I also do. I got to give Tom Herman a bit of credit for the comedy he had there, because he did say, well, they read it on orangefans.com.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it is, I've seen all the Urban Meyer talk I've seen has come from specifically Orange Bloods, and they are not Tom Herman fans. And this would be like us, asking Dave Aranda if there ever crept up something like, I would never ask Dave. I would ask him about his job security and how he felt about it, but I wouldn't ask him hey, so you heard that Phil Montgomery might be the new head coach? That's just...
Or asking him now, do you think you'll survive this season as the head coach at Baylor? That's ridiculous.
Look, I can just tell you a specific time when, I know we're up against it, but when Guy Morris was going to get fired, we all knew he was going to get fired. He was a guest on my talk show, and I asked him, I called him before the show and asked him if he wanted to come on or not. And he said, look, Paul, everybody's getting fired as a coach. Don't worry about it. I was young. And then I asked him on the show, I said, Coach, how do you deal with all this? And he was very frank about it. I did ask him about it because it was out there and I've been silly not to, but I didn't say hey, who do you think's going to replace you?
Yeah.
Who would you vote for?
Thanks to Patrick Lawrence, Jordan Williams, Phil Bennett. Thanks as well to Tristan Abram. Thanks to Kevin Hoffman. Thanks to Greg Jacobs. And my goodness, there's a bunch I'm probably missing as well today.
Well, we got really good perspective from Jordan Williams and Patrick Lawrence and Phil Bennett. So if you're a Baylor football fan, all three of those I feel like are must-listens for you.
And that's enough. Thanks to CJ. Thanks to Armstrong. I'm David Smoke for Paul and Craig. Good night on Sic'Em365 Radio. Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Waco's newest gym, Halo Athletic Center, 5725 Bagby Avenue, right behind Region 12 and across the highway from the Central Texas Marketplace, where motivation, inspiration, and hard work are the driving force. State-of-the-art equipment, indoor and outdoor track, locker rooms, showers, yoga and bar classes by Duality Yoga, bod pod potty composition analysis, and registered dietitians, all under one roof, where we rise above. Come join the Halo Athletic Center and be a part of the change, your change.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Have you tried a do-it-yourself program to lose weight? You may not know that in a typical do-it-yourself program, a quarter of the weight you lose is due to muscle breakdown and loss. With COVID harming obese and overweight patients, being at ideal body weight is more important now than ever. Over 30 physicians in Central Texas, tired of seeing patients fail at losing weight themselves, opened Muscle-Wise Nutrition. This is a coach-managed weight loss program that targets fat and spares muscle. The 4 Muscle-Wise locations have taken off over 19,000 pounds from Texas dieters in the last few years. The combination of coaching and weekly body composition analysis to target the fat loss are the keys to success. The coaches teach you how to eat and live a healthy lifestyle. Email Sic'Em365 at musclewisenutrition.com today, and the coaches will contact you about their free educational seminars. Do not wait. Email today and start MuscleWise at Sic'Em365 at musclewisenutrition.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trust, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.